Chapter 2085. After that, Yiling was tormented by Lin Wei until she couldn't get out of bed. Ji Qinqin kept knocking on the door outside, and had to give up in the end. Actually, Yiling's room was equipped with a spare key, but Ji Qinqin didn't dare to open the door. She was afraid to see the despair in her precious daughter's eyes. After Lin Wei finished eating Yiling, he put on his clothes and left the place. But before he left, Lin Wei helped Yiling change into a clean set of clothes. "Where are you going?" Yiling sat up straight and asked when she saw that Lin Wei was about to leave. "I'll pick you up in 3 days." Lin Wei didn't say anything else. He left this sentence and walked out of the door. After opening the door, Lin Wei didn't even look at Ji Qinqin. His tall figure walked out of the Yi family's door in a few steps. After Lin Wei left, Ji Qinqin rushed into the house like a kite with a broken string to see her daughter. "Lingling, I'll take you away. I'll take you away. I'll take care of you for the rest of your life. We'll still live without a man." Ji Qinqin thought that Yiling was frightened. She thought that Yiling couldn't accept it, so she rushed over to hug Yiling and take her away. A girl who had lost her virginity would be criticized even if she remarried. Ji Qinqin didn't want her daughter to suffer that. She had lost her daughter for 10 years. She must give her the best in the future. However, before Ji Qinqin could hug Yiling, she thought that Yiling would be in so much pain from being violated by Lin Wei again. Who knew that she would see Yiling's shy and embarrassed face? "Mom, I think I like him." Yiling looked up. Her sky blue eyes were sparkling. They were exquisite and beautiful, like a doll that had been carefully dressed up. They were so beautiful that it was unrealistic. Ji Qinqin was stunned. Huh. Then, wasn't everything she did before just messing around? Ji Qinqin was the kind of person who would support her daughter unconditionally as long as she liked it. Ji Qinqin's heart instantly relaxed when she heard that her daughter liked Lin Wei. To be honest, she quite liked Lin Wei, except for the fact that he was domineering. But if her daughter liked him, Lin Wei's domineering attitude would be good. That kind of man was the most loyal. H Province, W City, Wu Town. The 5 children had already been brought back safely. Yin Jian drove the convertible sports car back to Wuxia first. After that, Zhang Jifan brought the people who had chased after the black van back to Wuxia. The group of people got out of the car. They were still in a daze from what had just happened. "Sister, we've all heard that you're the one who saved 5 of our classmates and even chased away the bad guys. Thank you." At this time, Xingzi led the 4th, 6th, and 6th grade students to Yunjian. They tied up the bouquet that they had hurriedly gathered together and handed it to Yunjian. The children blinked their innocent eyes, waiting to see Yunjian receive the bouquet. Yunjian raised her eyebrows slightly. Then, she accepted the bouquet of flowers from the children in front of everyone. "It's beautiful." Just because Yunjian said the words "very beautiful," the children laughed happily. Although the smile looked silly, it contained the most innocent smile of a child. Wu Zhizhi dared not speak due to Yunjian's behavior just now. In spite of it, her eyes were glued to Yunjian, as if she wanted to bore a hole through Yunjian with her glare. Just as Wu Zhizhi was glaring at Yunjian, the people around them saw Zhang Jifan, who had put on his suit again, walk to Yunjian and tell Yunjian in public, "Sister Jian, I've already donated 1 billion yuan to CI Xiong organization as per your order in the name of New Cruise's director. I believe that the money will be distributed to the poor mountainous areas in no time. Hopefully, it can bring an improvement to the children's standard of living." Chapter 2086. Zhang Jifan's words were calm when they left his mouth, but when they reached everyone's ears, it was as simple as asking, "Have you eaten today?" But these simple words gave people a sense of surprise that brought them back to their senses. Wu Zhizhi, who was glaring at Yunjian earlier, froze when she heard the question. New cruise? When the children were abducted by African Bao and the rest, no one thought much about it. Why would Qingyu, Zhang Jifan, and the rest appear here so coincidentally? But now, could you be New Cruise's current CEO, Mr. Zhang Jifan? Muyu looked at Zhang Jifan with shock and surprise on her face. Slowly, her surprised face turned into a look of deep worship. Zhang Jifan was tugging at the red collar of his suit. When he heard Muyu, Zhang Jifan turned to look at her. Then, in front of everyone, Zhang Jifan nodded at Muyu. That's right. His every move and every word was filled with the elegance of an upper-class person. Zhang Jifan was now adept at being New Cruise's CEO. Outsiders would not be able to tell that Zhang Jifan was a street gangster. It was also because of this that Zhang Jifan was able to promote New Cruise to other countries. Oh my god, are you really New Cruise's CEO, Zhang Jifan? Although I've never seen your photo, I've always regarded you as the person I respect the most. I heard that in the past 2 years, your methods in the business world have left your peers far behind. In just 1 year, you stepped onto the national stage, and then in just 2 years, you stepped onto the international stage. We're all proud of you. You're our role model. I didn't expect to meet you here today. I am so excited. Muyu stood before Zhang Jifan in excitement like a person standing before her idol. She could not contain her excitement. Zhang Jifan did not expect that someone would worship him so much. After hearing this, he felt a little embarrassed. How am I awesome? Haha, it's all thanks to Sister Jian that New Cruise is where it is today. I only look impressive on the surface, but Sister Jian is the real business elite. Zhang Jifan scratched his head, laughed twice and then said. Only now did the crowd regain their senses. From the moment Zhang Jifan revealed Yin Jian's identity as New Cruise's director, everyone was stunned and in disbelief. The mysterious director of New Cruise was actually an 18-year-old girl. Oh my god! If Yin Jian is the director of New Cruise, how old was she when she started New Cruise? Liang Xiaomin exclaimed. Wasn't the difference a little too big? They were just ordinary university students. Even now when they had no money, they were still reaching out to their families. What about Yin Jian? Could it be that she started a company when she was in junior high? Now that she was in university, her company was already officially operating on an international platform. Wu Zizi's eyes bulged and her face darkened, but she chose to remain silent. His expression was extremely ugly. It was as if she had gone to look down on someone back then, and that person had flown to the sky to look down on her. Compared to New Cruise, Wu Zizi's father's company was nothing. Moreover, Wu Zizi had mocked her before, so she looked like she had lost all hope. However, that was not the end of it. After Zhang Jifan heard what Liang Xiaomin said, his thoughts drifted back to the past. He chuckled and spoke without hesitation in front of everyone. Sister Jian came to us who were living at the bottom of society when she was 15, saying that she wanted to start a car marketing company. We were surprised back then, but we followed Yin Jian's lead. Actually, it's all thanks to Sister Jian that New Cruise can go international. She knows so many top international figures that we can't even count them with our fingers. Most importantly, those people listen to her. See, I used Sister Jian's name to negotiate with those people, and everything went smoothly. There's one thing those people said about Sister Jian the most, and I agree with it a lot. It's that she Yin Jian is a legend that will never be defeated. Chapter 2087. Shi Yunjian is a legend who will never be defeated. This was the highest compliment given by the international tycoons, businessmen and politicians. It was also what Zhang Jifan believed to be the truth. Yunjian was truly a legend who would never be defeated. Whether it was Xinjiang town back then, Longmen City, Min City's military school, or the University of Rivertown now. Wherever Yunjian was, there would be a legend. Knowing that Yunjian was New Cruise's director, it was shocking news to Wu Zizi, Xin Qingjiang, Liang Xiaomin, Muyu and the rest. Of course, her identity as the director was enough to shock Wu Zizi, Xin Qingjiang, Liang Xiaomin, and the rest. Now Zhang Jifan was saying that Yunjian knew so many international tycoons that they could not even count them with their fingers. Moreover, those people obeyed Yunjian's every word. What was even more shocking was that New Cruise's success today was all thanks to Zhang Jifan. Now that they heard Zhang Jifan's words, if it were not for Yunjian's acquaintance with the international tycoons, without Yunjian paving the way, Zhang Jifan alone would never have the capability to lead New Cruise to the international stage. Yunjian was the most important person for New Cruise to be where it was today. Wu Zizi, who cared a lot about her family background, and wanted to compare her family background with her classmates and friends in school, had a dark expression on her face. Wu Zizi's face, which was obviously displeased after learning about Yun Jian's identity, was lowered slightly as she stared at the ground. Wu Zhizhi, who was initially blushing but now had a dark expression, and was gripping the hem of her shirt tightly as if she was not going to back down, was now silent. Perhaps she was shocked by Yun Jian's behavior earlier, or perhaps she felt that her family background was not as good as Yun Jian's. Wu Zhizhi kept her head down, but she was actually so angry that she was about to spit blood. Some people wished that the world would come to see them when they were in the limelight. However, if they were slapped in the face, they would be like a football that was holding its breath, standing aside without a sound. Big brothers and sisters, my mother made mung bean soup for all of you. It's not much, but she said it's to thank you for saving me just now. Just then, a child dressed in dirty clothes walked over with a basket filled with a few bowls of mung beans. There weren't many bowls of mung beans in the basket, she said as she walked. This child was one of the 5 children who had just been kidnapped. In this poor mountainous area, mung bean soup was only taken out during festivals. Grab a small handful of mung bean soup and put it into porridge that had more water than rice. It was a fresh luxury. Today the child's mother cooked all the mung beans. Her generosity was indescribable. The child's arrival made the few people who were talking just now shut their mouths. The child also obediently took out bowls of mung bean soup from her basket and handed them to everyone. The child was reluctant to eat it herself and gave all the delicious food to others. At this time, when the child handed the mung bean soup to Wu Zhizhi slapped the bowl of mung bean soup in the child's hand to the ground. Don't give it to me. I don't know how many people have eaten this bowl. There are so many bacteria on it. It's so dirty. Also, have you washed your hands? Has your mother washed her hands? I think you people here are so poor that you can't even afford to wash your hands. It's so dirty. Chapter 2088. Wu Zhizhi was already full of anger. And when the child handed her the mung bean soup, Wu Zhizhi's anger flared up. He really King sent himself to her door to be abused. After Wu Zhizhi smashed the bowl the child handed over, the child stared at the mung bean soup on the floor and licked his lips greedily. Big sister, it's not good to waste food like this. None of your business. Anyway, I won't eat the junk food you give me. It's all germs. I'm such a noble person. How can I eat food like this? Wu Zhizhi yelled at the child. At that moment, Yun Jian, who had been silent all this while, narrowed her eyes slightly. Noble. Yun Jian sneered mockingly. What? Isn't that the case? Wu Zhizhi replied confidently. You should be the one with germs all over your body. Yun Jian suddenly said to Wu Zhizhi. What do you mean? Wu Zhizhi instantly had an ominous feeling after hearing that. In the next second, Yun Jian turned on her phone and pressed on the button twice. Everyone heard the conversation between Shen Qingjiang and another boy from Yun Jian's phone. That conversation made Wu Zhizhi collapse on the spot. Qingjiang, are you really not going to accept treatment? This was the boy who was talking to Shen Qingjiang. Is treatment useful? Anyway, I'm going to King die anyway. If I can drag one down to hell with me, it's one more. Hee. I was King harmed by someone back then. This was what Shen Qingjiang said. How long have you been aware that you have AIDS? Not long. After I ked Wu Zhizhi and confirmed that she also has AIDS, I'll ck other girls. Even if I die, I'll drag them down with me. You're really not kind. The girls who met you are really unlucky. I'm not kind? That's because I was forced. ck. I ked that be tch Wu Zhizhi so many times. This time, I'll definitely infect her with AIDS. That be tch didn't ask for a condom when she did it with you. Tsk, I was just bluffing a little. Why didn't you obediently let me shoot you in? From the voice that came from Yun Jian's phone, everyone present could naturally tell that the person on the phone was Shen Qingjiang. As for who that boy was, no one cared. The main thing is the breaking news in this phone call. No. Impossible. Qingjiang, that's impossible, right? How could you? How could you? Then how could you be me? After hearing this phone call, Wu Zhizhi's head exploded. She looked at Shen Qingjiang in panic and shook her head. She was so scared that her lips instantly turned pale. Hearing this news was even scarier than being frightened by Yin Jian. AIDS can be transmitted through sexual contact, blood, and mother to child. In other words, he had sex with someone who had AIDS. Or some people would go to small places to donate blood. The syringe used to draw blood from an AIDS patient, and then draw your blood, which would cause an infection. Or it could be that the mother contracted AIDS and passed it on to the next generation. These were the three most common ways of AIDS transmission. And the reason why Wu Zhizhi was so scared was because AIDS had a relatively long incubation period after infection. Usually, it would take 7 to 10 years for the infection to occur. After the infection, the survival period would not exceed 2 years. To put it bluntly, contracting AIDS was equivalent to having half a foot in the coffin. There was no doubt that one would die. Even now there was no cure for AIDS, much less now in 2002. Now was not the time for Wu Zhizhi to be calculative about her, and Shen Qingjiang being found out. She looked at Shen Qingjiang and trembled all over. She couldn't have been infected with AIDS, right? Shen Qingjiang suddenly heard the conversation between him and his buddy from Yin Jian's phone. He was stunned. When he came back to his senses, he looked at Yin Jian with a nonchalant expression. Hee, since I've been found out, then I have nothing to hide. But why do you have the chat records between me and my buddy? Shen Qingjiang was bewildered. Why would Yin Jian have the chat records between him and his buddy? Just as he asked this, he saw Yin Jian, who was standing in front of him, wave the phone in her hand and say coldly in front of everyone, I forgot to tell you that I'm a hacker too. Hey. Chapter 2089. Yin Jian was a hacker? The crowd's expression changed when they heard Yin Jian's words. She was a hacker. However, with Yin Jian's identity as New Cruise's director, the crowd was not too surprised. After all, there were different levels among hackers. If she was just a regular hacker, it would not be surprising. Moreover, Yin Jian graduated from the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. It would not be strange if she knew how to hack. At this moment, the crowd was shocked that Shen Qingjiang was an AIDS patient. Shen Qingjiang, why you did it on purpose? Did you deliberately infect me with AIDS? You're worse than a beast. Go to hell. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Wu Zhizhi was scared out of her wits when she found out the truth. She cursed at Shen Qingjiang. If no one stopped her, she would have pounced on Shen Qingjiang to kill him. Of course, all of this had nothing to do with Yin Jian. She had merely overheard Shen Qingjiang's conversation with his brother. She was surprised when she first heard it. She did not expect Wu Zhizhi, who cared so much about hygiene and safety, to end up like this. Of course, Wu Zhizhi deserved to be punished for her sins. At the same time, she had to remind her that it was better for girls to have self-respect and self-respect. Otherwise, more sinister and terrifying things in this world would befall you. Wu Zhizhi was picked up by the car sent by her father on the same day. Naturally, Shen Qingjiang could not stay in Wuzhen any longer. Wuzhen was much more peaceful after the two of them left. Qingyu and Zhang Zhifan left Wuzhen on the same day as well. 2 days later, the money donated by New Cruise to the poor mountainous areas all over the country was distributed. Wuzhen and the few villages around it received quite a sum of money that could be used to improve their families' living conditions. Wuzhen Primary School received a decent amount of capital as well. On this day, the principal bought some textbooks and a new backpack for each of the children in Wuzhen Primary School. This made the children so happy that they all jumped up and down with their school bags in hand. Oh. Yay. We have new backpacks. We have new backpacks. That's great. I want Ultraman's bag. That little bunny bag is mine. The principal and the female teacher couldn't help but smile when they saw the children picking out their new school bags and jumping around happily. When Yin Jian saw this, her eyes narrowed slightly. The next morning was Saturday, the earliest morning of the day. There were 2 more days before Yin Jian had to go back to school. The 7 days of volunteer teaching in the countryside also came to an end on the weekend. The children still didn't know that the big brothers and sisters who brought them laughter were leaving. At that time, the children didn't have to go to school. She dragged Yin Jian and the others to the hill where the sheep were grazing. The surrounding children were playing with a group of university students. Yunjian was lying on the lawn bathed in the weak morning sunlight. At the side, there were 4 or 5 sheep bleating as they surrounded Yunjian. The sunlight was very glaring. Yunjian was mesmerized by it. She closed her eyes to feel the weak and glaring rays of the morning sun. Suddenly, a black shadow blocked the glaring sunlight. Yunjian opened her eyes and saw a handsome face. This handsome face had sharp eyebrows, a pair of sharp eyes and those thin lips. Coupled with his perfect facial features, Yunjian couldn't take her eyes off him. Yunjian was about to speak when Si suddenly bent down and pressed her down on the lawn. His tall body pressed against hers and he blocked her mouth with his thin lips. There were a few sheep bleating nearby, so Liang Xiumin Mu Yao and the others who were chasing and playing with a group of children didn't notice Si Yi's sudden appearance. They also didn't realize that Si Yi had appeared out of nowhere and pressed Yunjian down on the lawn. It was an action that could easily be misunderstood. After kissing the little mouth that he had been longing for, Si Yi finally let go of Yunjian and bent down to her ear. His handsome face that was infuriating yet infuriatingly handsome wore a mischievous grin. "Xiaojian, you're so beautiful. How I want to become one with you right here, so that you can never leave my sight." Si Yi's words made Yunjian blush. She was about to pinch him. At this moment, a sheep beside him bleated comfortably, "Bob." Then the sheep shook its body and pooped out a pile of feces. Si Yi and Yunjian were beside them. The moment they heard the sheep bleat, Si Yi grabbed Yunjian's waist and rolled to the side, avoiding the sheep's poop. Just as they dodged the sheep's poop, a child suddenly saw Si Yi hugging Yunjian's slim waist and rolling on the lawn. The child clapped his hands and exclaimed innocently, "Look, look. Big brother is hugging big sister and rolling around on the lawn. It's so fun." His exclamation made everyone around them, including the children and university students from Jiang City, turn to look. Chapter 2090. After avoiding that pile of sheep poop, Si Yi and Yunjian were exposed in front of everyone. Si Yi was hugging Yunjian's slender waist and didn't hide himself and Yunjian. Hence, everyone saw Si Yi hugging Yunjian and rolling around on the grass. A few university girls inadvertently caught a glimpse of Si Yi's handsome face, and then looked at Si Yi and Yunjian rolling around on the grass in an extremely ambiguous position. They couldn't help but blush. Si Yi, who was discovered, didn't panic at all. On the contrary, he hugged Yunjian and rolled around on the grass before pulling her up. It was as if he hadn't done anything bad just now. Who is this man? There's actually such a handsome man in this world? Could he be her boyfriend? When the girls saw Si Yi's handsome face, they couldn't react for a long time. However, Liang Xiumin and Mu Yao walked over with a few children. "Yunjian, your boyfriend actually came all the way here to look for you. You're so lucky. You're not like my boyfriend, who only comes when I pay," Liang Xiumin complained. Liang Xiumin's boyfriend, Jinyu, was a gangster who lived near Jiang City. He had met Liang Xiumin in Jiang City. Jinyu was one of the people Yunjian and the others had met at the beach in Zhou Mountain. Jinyu's boyfriend was considered a weirdo. It was one thing for a grown man to come looking for Liang Xiumin and ask her for travel expenses, but he even brought a group of men and women with him. He even wanted Liang Xiumin to pay for their travel expenses, meals, and even the money for their entertainment. He was a typical gigolo. "We're already married," Si Yi frowned and explained when he heard Liang Xiumin say that he was Yunjian's boyfriend. When Liang Xiumin heard that, she chuckled and said, "I know." Then she nudged Yunjian with her hand and revealed a smile that said, "You're so lucky." This time, Si Yi didn't take out her marriage certificate or the fake pregnancy test report. Mu Yu, on the other hand, was stunned when she heard Liang Xiumin's words. Then she asked Liang Xiumin in a daze, "Junior, you have a boyfriend?" "Yeah, what's wrong?" Liang Xiumin didn't notice the displeasure in Mu Yaoyao's tone as she replied, "Nothing." In a place where no one could see, Mu Xiao clenched her fists and gritted her teeth as she spoke. Yunjian saw Mu Yaoyao's actions, but she didn't say anything. At this moment, Yunjian's hand was being held tightly by Si Yi. At this moment, someone tugged at the hem of her clothes. Yunjian glanced sideways and saw Luing, who was only as tall as her waist, tugging at her clothes as she stared at her with her large dark eyes. Before Yunjian could speak, Luing spoke first. She looked at Yunjian, and then at Ce and asked, "Are big sister and big brother going to have children in the future?" Luing really didn't stop until she said something shocking. After he said that, the people around him pretended to cough a few times. However, Luing really didn't know what was wrong with her words. She just stared at Yunjian with her large eyes and waited for Yunjian's reply. Yunjian blinked. Before she could say anything, Liang Xiumin reached out and gently flicked Lu Ying's forehead and said, "Yes, yes, yes. They're in that relationship." When Luing heard Liang Xiumin's words, she suddenly clapped her hands and said, "That's great. Big brother and big sister are so beautiful. Big brother and big sister's children will be especially beautiful in the future." After Luing said this, a little boy next to her added, "But to have a baby, don't they have to fight before they can get pregnant? My mother and father fought and I had a little brother." "Nonsense. My father said that to have a baby, it's fine as long as they eat and sleep well. There's no need to fight at all." A little girl with 2 ponytails stood out and retorted, "But why did Dong Dong from the neighboring village say that as long as you kiss, you'll have children? He also said that boys and girls sitting together in class can get pregnant too." Chapter 2091. Regarding the question of how to have a child, the children all talked about it. A group of innocent children, discussing how to have a child. The result of the discussion really made people not know whether to laugh or cry. The few university students standing by the side listened to the discussion of this group of children, and felt awkward for a moment. However, the children were completely unaware of how shocking their words were. Hearing this child say that boys and girls would get pregnant when they sat together in class, a 10-year-old girl suddenly burst into tears. "Wah wah wah wah. Then I've been deskmate with a boy for a year. Am I pregnant now? Am I going to have a child soon? I don't want to wah wah wah." After this little girl cried, the surrounding girls were all shocked by the little girl's words, and perhaps affected by the atmosphere. One by one, they all cried out, "Ah? Does that mean I'm pregnant too? I don't want to be pregnant. Wah wah wah. I've also been deskmate with a boy for 2 years. Will I have 2 children? I don't want to. Wah wah wah. Mom said that if I get pregnant before marriage, I'll be drowned in a pig cage." In less than 2 minutes, the group of children who were running and jumping around just now, all the girls stood in place and cried. The boys looked at the girls in a daze, not knowing whether to comfort them or not. This scene progressed so quickly that it surprised the group of university students present. Why are they all crying?" Liang Xiumin looked at the scene in front of her in a daze, not knowing what to do. "You won't get pregnant." Just when the group of girls was crying and gasping for breath, and the surrounding people didn't know what to do, Yunjian's voice suddenly sounded. Perhaps this voice had a trace of the majesty of a king. The group of girls instantly stopped crying. "Sister, is it true?" Luing wiped her tears, raised her head and looked at Yunjian with a pair of big black eyes, blinked her eyelashes that were still stained with tears, took 2 deep breaths and asked, "Of course it's true, I never lie." Yunjian's red arc raised, and she smiled faintly. Perhaps Yunjian's words had a certain charm. The girls present really stopped crying. Although there was a small interlude, everyone had a great time in the morning and afternoon. Ce didn't leave at night, and stayed at Lu Ying's house. Originally, Liang Xiumin and Yunjian slept on the same bed, but Liang Xiumin consciously slept in the same room as Lu Ying and Lu Shi at night. Ce didn't do anything strange to Yunjian since they were in someone else's house. They woke up early the next morning for the return journey. Hearing that the big sisters and big brothers were leaving, the children were already awake when the sun was still up. Putting on the big cotton-padded jackets they bought with New Cruise's donation, they stood by the road in Wu Town to bid farewell to Yunjian and her friends. The children's thin bodies were no longer cold, and they were no longer wearing thin clothes that were as thin as if they were naked. Although the children didn't know how they got pregnant, they knew that it was all thanks to Yunjian that they were able to wear the big cotton-padded jackets, new school bags, new textbooks, and new stationery. "Sister, will you come back to see us again?" The children stood on the muddy road that led to the city in Wu Town, their little eyes staring at Yunjian, their eyes filled with longing. "Yes." Yunjian nodded as she looked at the stars in the children's eyes. Sister, you said that mommy will come back, right? Lu Ying couldn't bear to see Yunjian leave, so she hugged her brother tightly and stared at Yunjian with her little eyes. Yunjian was silent for 2 seconds before replying Lu Ying, yes. She didn't know if Lu Ying's mother would come back, but she knew that she couldn't let a child's longing for their mother die. Sister, thank you. As Lu Ying spoke, she seemed to have recalled something. She took out a wrinkled old photo and handed it to Yunjian with trembling hands. Sister, this is the only photo of mommy that I have. I'm giving it to you. Sister, you don't have to look for mommy on purpose. Just help me tell mommy if you accidentally see her. Ying isn't mommy's burden anymore. Ying can take care of little brother and grandma. Ying doesn't need mommy to take care of us. But Ying misses mommy. Little brother misses mommy too. He wants mommy to come home and see Ying. Sister, can I? Chapter 2092. Lu Ying begged Yunjian in the most tactful tone she could muster. As she spoke, she handed the black and white photo that was so old that the face could barely be seen to Yunjian with trembling hands. Lu Ying's father had passed away. Her grandmother was paralyzed. Her younger brother was still young, and her mother had run away with someone a long time ago. Her only wish now was to see her mother again. As for this old photo, to Lu Ying, it was the only thing she remembered her mother's appearance. Now, she handed the most precious old photo to Yunjian because she trusted Yunjian. She believed that Yunjian would help her keep an eye on her mother, so Lu Ying still gave the photo to Yunjian. However, Yunjian took the old photo from Lu Ying's hands in front of everyone, and then glanced at the people in the old photo. There were 5 people in the old photo. An old lady, a young man, and a young woman. The young man and the young woman were holding 2 children in their arms. It was not difficult to tell that the young man and young woman were Lu Ying's father and mother. The young man and young woman in the photo were smiling brightly. The man was handsome, and the woman was beautiful. Both of their faces were filled with happiness. Although the photo was old, Lu Ying had kept it very well. This was probably the best memory of Lu Ying's life. Yunjian glanced at the young woman in the photo and returned the photo to Lu Ying. Lu Ying took the photo that Yunjian returned to her in a daze. She was pleasantly surprised and disappointed. She was pleasantly surprised because the photo was back in her hands. Lu Ying would look at the photo every night and think of her mother's arms when she fell asleep. Now that she had given the photo to Yunjian, it meant that Lu Ying's only spiritual support was gone. She was disappointed because her sister also had her own life. It was only right for her to return the photo to her and not help her convey these words when she saw her mother. Her small eyes rolled around twice. Lu Ying could not help but tear up. Mom, where are you? Ying and her brother can be good. Ying can go and earn money for you to spend. As long as you come back and return to Ying and her brother's side. All of this made Lu Ying feel despair. She knew that her mother had left for so long because she did not want her and her brother anymore. Is there no hope left? Just as Lu Ying lowered her head dejectedly and tears fell from the corners of her eyes, a hand touched her head. Lu Ying was shocked. She raised her head and saw Yunjian's exquisite and beautiful face. I've already memorized your mother's appearance. Now tell me your mother's name, and I'll help you find her. Yunjian's words were like an arm reaching out for Lu Ying in a desperate situation, causing the 11-year-old child to burst into tears instantly. Thank you, elder sister. Thank you, elder sister. Lu Ying bowed to Yunjian several times. She almost knelt down to Yunjian. Lu Ying then told Yunjian her mother's name and age. As soon as he finished speaking, the bus driver sent by the school began to urge the university students from Jiangqing City to board the bus and return to school. Ce also took the school bus back to Jiangqing City with Yunjian. Wu Zhizhi and Shen Qingjiang had left first, so there was an empty seat on the bus. There was no harm in having Ce. When they had just boarded the bus, Yunjian could still feel that Lu Ying was staring at her closely. Her small eyes were filled with hope. Seeing this, Yunjian pursed her red lips. The second before she boarded the bus, she left Lu Ying with these words. I'll definitely help you find your mother. I never lie. Although Lu Ying was still a child, she had been very good to Yunjian and Liang Xiumin. She had even given up her blanket to Yunjian and Liang Xiumin in the beginning, even if it meant that she would freeze. The reason why Yunjian could make her subordinates submit to her wholeheartedly was that she, Yunjian, had always been a vengeful person. She would definitely do what she said. Chapter 2093. Yunjian's words gave Luing hope. It had been a long time since anyone had been so nice to her. Luing had an indescribable feeling. In the end, the bus drove away under the gaze of Lu Ying and the rest. Yunjian, who was sitting in the bus, saw Lu Ying and her brother Lu Shi chasing the bus for a long distance through the mirror. The siblings could not catch up with the bus until they reached a rugged mountain road. Lu Ying and Lu Shi's gazes carried a trace of pleading. At this moment, an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old had placed all their hopes and future on Yunjian. They hoped that in the near future, their mother would hear their pleas and come home. The bus took the group back the way it came. The bus drove very slowly. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. At the entrance of Wuxia town, she saw the two old ruffians who had tried to stop Yunjian and Liang Xiumin in the bamboo forest. The two old ruffians were limping. Although they survived, it seemed like they would have to limp for the rest of their lives. Of course, this was their retribution. Yunjian did not expect the two old ruffians to survive. In spite of it, Yunjian was no longer interested in how the two old ruffians managed to survive. After the bus left Wuxia town and drove into the city, Yunjian directly sent the information of Lu Ying's mother to the Kosha mercenaries intelligence group. It was already evening when they returned to Jiangcheng. The next morning, CE returned to an Hun organization. The next afternoon, Yunjian and Zhu Huili had lunch in the cafeteria. While they were eating, her phone suddenly received a message. She took it out and saw that it was from Diane. The content of the message was very simple. She had found the whereabouts of Lu Ying's mother. After lunch, Yunjian stuffed her phone into her pocket and told Zhu Huili that she would be taking 3 days off. Zhu Huili responded. She wasn't surprised by this at all. After calling her homeroom teacher Miss Yu to tell her that she wanted to take 3 days off, Yunjian walked towards the school gate. Last time, Miss Yu had promised her that as long as she went to the countryside to teach, she could ask for leave whenever she wanted. Miss Yu didn't go back on her word. "Hey, President, you're finally back. We've been waiting for you for the past 2 days." When he reached the school gate, he bumped into Zhou Huntao from the martial arts club. When Zhou Huntao saw Yunjian, he hurriedly stopped and greeted his brothers before speaking to Yunjian. Zhou Huntao's brothers were obviously stunned. Could it be that this girl was the legendary new president of the martial arts club? In the next second, Yunjian's words confirmed their thoughts. "And I'll take 3 days off. Tell Mo Bufan to continue supervising the training of the members of the club while I'm away. After I return, I'll test the progress of the members of the club one by one." The martial arts competition was just around the corner, and it all depended on one's willpower. Zhou Huntao nodded at Yunjian's words. After she finished speaking, she walked out of the school. Seeing that Yunjian had walked far away, one of Zhou Huntao's brothers asked Zhou Huntao, "Huntao, is this the new president of your martial arts club?" At first, Zhou Huntao's brothers couldn't believe it. That girl was the legendary new president of the martial arts club, Yunjian, who had directly charged into Dragon City University's martial arts club and beaten up Wu Run. They thought that Yunjian would grow up to look like a tough girl, with a rough and fierce body. But she was 2F** King beautiful. However, in front of his brothers, Zhou Huntao proudly and confidently said, "That's right, she's the new president of our martial arts club. With her, we'll definitely get first place in this year's martial arts competition." Chapter 2094. Zhou Huntao's confident words caused an uproar among his brothers. Although there was a trace of disbelief in their hearts. Could such a skinny body really lead the members of the martial arts club to win the first place in this year's martial arts competition? But at this moment, no one said anything about doubts. The next day, Ji Province, Guang City. Guang City was a first-tier city located in Ji Province. Its economy was developing fast, and the people's living standards were high. Located in the suburbs of Guang City, there was a tall villa. The villa was surrounded by people holding iron rods. This group of people looked like ruffians from head to toe. They walked back and forth to the left and right as if they were guarding someone in the villa. In the villa, in a large room, a lady sat in front of a makeup mirror. She fiddled with her hair in a daze, and her face was getting more and more haggard. With a creak, the door was opened and then closed. This lady was completely unaffected by the door opening and closing. She continued fiddling with her hair in a daze, as if she was an emotionless doll. It wasn't until the door was closed and locked that the lady was awakened from her reverie by the sound of a woman's voice, which was as pleasant as the sound of nature. You abandoned your family and children, leaving your son and daughter to live a life worse than pigs and dogs in the poor mountainous area. Wang Suifan, have you ever felt the slightest bit of remorse? The person who came was Yun Jian. And Wang Suifan was the mother who abandoned Lu Ying and Lu Shi. When Wang Suifan heard Yun Jian's words, she suddenly stood up from the bench in front of the makeup table. She turned around and stared at Yun Jian in shock. Who are you? How do you know about Ying and Xiaoshi? This place is heavily guarded, and there are people guarding the door. How did you get in? And how are Ying and Xiaoshi now? Lu Ying and Lu Shi's mother, Wang Suifan, married the boss of F province's largest underground gang, Hong Tiniu. A woman who abandoned her family and children was the most disgusting existence in the world. But when Wang Suifan heard about Lu Ying and Lu Shi, she looked worried. You don't need to know who I am. You just need to know that your children are not living well. Yun Jian said. Hearing Yun Jian say that Lu Ying and Lu Shi were not doing well, Wang Suifan covered her face and cried softly. Ying, little Shi, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. After a while, when Wang Suifan calmed down, Yun Jian learned the truth from Wang Suifan. Wang Suifan didn't abandon her family. A few years ago, when Wang Suifan and her husband entered the city, they accidentally met the boss of the biggest underground gang in Ji province, Hong Tiniu. Wang Suifan was beautiful. Even now, her beauty had not been worn down by time. At that time, Hong Tiniu had used his authority to forcefully take Wang Suifan away. Wang Suifan and her husband were afraid that Hong Tiniu would hurt their child. So they lied to Lu Ying and Lu Shi that Wang Suifan had run away with another man. Even their grandmother did not know the truth. After all, with Hong Tiniu's power, if ordinary families like them wanted to forcefully go against him, they might not even be able to keep their lives. Wang Suifan thought she would never be able to go back in this lifetime. However, Hong Tiniu knew that Wang Suifan's heart was not here, so he had been locking Wang Suifan in the villa for many years, not allowing her to take half a step out of the villa. When she heard that Lu Ying and Lu Shi's father had passed away in an accident, Wang Suifan's face was lifeless, and her tears could not stop flowing. Don't cry, come with me. Yun Jian saw the situation and said, Go. No, I can't go. Young lady, I'm already very grateful that you told me what happened at home. I can't implicate you. Hong Tiniu is a ruthless person. I don't know how many people have died in his hands. I'm afraid. Wang Suifan was afraid that she would implicate Yun Jian, so she shook her head in pain. Yun Jian's eyebrows, which had just calmed down, suddenly raised slightly. Before Wang Suifan could finish speaking, she suddenly smiled. Looks like you have to leave even if you don't want to. When Wang Suifan heard that, she didn't know what she meant. In the next second, there were footsteps and shouts outside the door. Quick, go to Madam's room. Someone has broken into Madam's room. Not long after, a tall and strong middle-aged man with average looks kicked open the door. Seeing that Yun Jian had no intention of hiding, and was standing there openly, the middle-aged man glared at Yun Jian and threatened. Young lady, you've got guts. How dare you break into my Hong Tiniu's room? Do you not want to be in the underworld anymore? The middle-aged man who had rushed into the room with a group of brothers was the boss of Ji province's biggest gang, Hong Tiniu. Ji province was the same as Zhe province. They were both provinces. Hong Tiniu was the boss of Ji province's gang. On a certain level, he was on the same level as Yun Jian, who was a Russian. When he saw Yun Jian's face clearly, he saw that Yun Jian was only an 18-year-old girl. Hong Tiniu sneered and said, Young lady, you're so young, but you've got some skills. You can actually avoid all the surveillance cameras and my brothers. But no matter who you are, you're going to die here today. As the boss of a province's gang, Hong Tiniu's aura was naturally strong. No. It's my fault. I was too bored. That's why I called her here. Let her go, let her go. Wang Suifan quickly stood in front of Yun Jian and said to Hong Tiniu. Hong Tiniu obviously wouldn't let Yun Jian die just like that. The way these beasts dealt with beautiful young ladies was usually to gang rape them before killing them. Wang Suifan was so scared that her face turned ashen. Just as the men behind Hong Tiniu were smirking at Yun Jian's pretty face and alluring figure, thinking that Yun Jian was already theirs, the men behind Hong Tiniu smirked. Yun Jian grabbed Wang Suifan's collar and pulled her away. After that, Yun Jian stared straight at Hong Tiniu in front of everyone. Her aura that was not inferior to Hong Tiniu's was on full display as she curled her lips into a smirk and said something that left everyone dumbfounded. Is this how the Tiango gang of Province Ji receives me, the Rakshasa from Russia? Or, Ji Province's Tiango gang is going to officially declare war on Ji Province's Falcon Hall. Chapter 2095. Facing Hong Tiniu, the leader of the number 1 gang in Province Ji, and his underlings. Yun Jian, who was only 18 years old, did not show any hint of fear or trepidation. On the contrary, she looked straight into Hong Tiniu's eyes and said those words in front of everyone without any fear. His words and actions were enough to make Hong Tiniu and the group of brothers behind him exclaim in admiration. But what did Yun Jian just say? Rakshasa? Ji Province's Falcon Hall? Wasn't Rakshasa of Ji Province's Falcon Hall the terrifying woman who took over a small gang in Ji Province and developed it into the number 1 gang in Ji Province in the shortest time possible? It was said that the woman's ability was invincible. Moreover, although Falcon Hall was a gang in the same province as many other gangs, Falcon Hall's ability was much more powerful than the gangs in other provinces. At least now, the gangs in other provinces would take a detour when they heard about Falcon Hall. They would rather take a long detour than fight with Falcon Hall. That was because Falcon Hall's ability was too strong. There were even rumors that Rakshasa would lead Falcon Hall to become the leader of the underground gangs in Country Z sooner or later. But today an 18-year-old girl stood in front of everyone and called herself Rakshasa, the boss of Falcon Hall? Rakshasa founded Falcon Hall 3 years ago. You weren't even 15 years old 3 years ago, right? Are you going to say that you founded Falcon Hall when you were 15? What a joke. Big brother, this girl is obviously bluffing. Wait until we catch this girl, and let our brothers take turns to enjoy her. Then we'll know if she's an imposter or not. The middle-aged man standing next to Hong Tiniu rubbed his hands together and smiled. He squinted his eyes and gestured at Yun Jian's voluptuous breasts from 5 to 6 meters away. This perverted middle-aged man even gestured as if he was grabbing Yun Jian's breasts. Of course, the middle-aged man squinted his eyes and fantasized about it from 5 to 6 meters away. In reality, he was not even 1 meter away from Yun Jian. It was me who had nothing to do, so I called her to my room to chat with me. She didn't do anything. Let her go. Wang Suifan was so scared that she lost her composure. She was scared because she was afraid that Yun Jian would be ruined by Hong Tiniu and his group of scum. It wasn't like such a thing had never happened before. When Wang Suifan first arrived here, she had met a young lady. At that time, the girl was about Yun Jian's age. She got along well with Wang Suifan. Later, when she heard about Wang Suifan's background, she planned an escape for her. In the end, Wang Suifan and the little girl were caught. The little girl had been gang raped to death by Hong Tiniu's group of scum because she had protected Wang Suifan's escape. Wang Suifan had seen the little girl die with her own eyes. She would never forget this pain for the rest of her life. Therefore, at this moment, Wang Suifan was afraid that Yun Jian would be killed by her. Moreover, he had died in such a humiliating manner. Since then, the number of guards guarding Wang Suifan in the villa increased. Oh madam, why are you in such a hurry? Hee. Not only did this little brat cover for your escape, she even pretended to be the boss of Falcon Hall, Rakshasa. Just based on these 2 points alone, how could we let her go? That vulgar middle-aged man rubbed his hands and looked at Yun Jian. His saliva was about to drip from the side of his mouth. Speaking of which, madam, you can only blame yourself for this. You said that we gang raped that little girl to death because of you. Today we don't know where you found this little girl from. Aren't you asking us to make a move on her? As the vulgar middle-aged man spoke, he had already walked towards Yun Jian. At that moment, Yun Jian's eyes darkened. She, who had been silent earlier, suddenly spoke up. You guys once killed a little girl who was about my age? Hee hee, little brat, the word killed doesn't sound good. That little girl was too weak to stand up to the wind. After we took turns king her a few times, she died. Who can you blame? But don't worry, little brat. You're so beautiful. We can't bear to let you die. The vulgar middle-aged man had already walked within 3 meters of Yun Jian, and was speaking vulgarly in front of everyone. However, just as he stepped within 3 meters of Yun Jian, a gunshot rang out. Unknowingly, Yun Jian was holding a silver pistol in her hand. The gun in her hand was so fast that before anyone could react, the bullet had already shot out and pierced through the vulgar middle-aged man's head. A second before the middle-aged man's eyes widened and he lost consciousness, Yun Jian spoke in front of Hong Tiniu and everyone else with an indifferent expression. Since you can't bear to let me die, then I'll have to trouble you to die. Chapter 2096. When the crowd finally reacted, they did not see the perverted middle-aged man assaulting Yun Jian. Instead, they saw a bright bullet piercing through his head and nailing him to the wall behind him. The sleazy middle-aged man widened his eyes and stared at Yun Jian for 2 seconds with narrowed pupils. 2 seconds later, the perverted middle-aged man fell to the ground and stopped breathing after Yun Jian finished her sentence. F***ck. This woman killed the third leader of the Tiango gang. One of the men behind Hong Tiniu shouted with his eyes wide open. The dead perverted middle-aged man was Lin Bulang, the third leader of the biggest gang in Province Ji, the Tiango gang. Lin Bulang was the third leader of the Tiango gang. He was lustful and spent every night with beautiful women. He did not care about the Tiango gang's affairs. Therefore, Lin Bulang's first thought when he saw Yun Jian was his perverted thoughts. Everyone was shocked that Yun Jian had taken out a gun and killed Lin Bulang. At the same time, Wang Suifan, who thought that she would kill Yun Jian, was shocked too. The young lady carried a gun with her. The villa was heavily guarded. If Yun Jian could enter the villa without being noticed, it meant that she was not an ordinary person. Wang Suifan did not even know who Yun Jian was when she said that she was the boss of Zhe Province's Falcon Hall, Luo Sha. However, the scene of Yun Jian taking out a gun and killing Lin Bulang caused an uproar. Boss, this young lady has guts. She dared to kill the third leader in front of you. Brothers, let's kill her. A man standing behind Hong Tiniu smiled happily when he saw Lin Bulang dead. However, he pretended to be furious that Lin Bulang was killed by Yun Jian. The man was Song Qing, who was promoted by Hong Tiniu after the Tiango gang became the biggest gang in Province Ji. Other than the boss Hong Tiniu, there were also the second and third leaders in the Tiango gang. Now that Lin Bulang, the third leader, was dead, Song Qing, who had always been dissatisfied with Lin Bulang's beauty, was surprised and delighted. Another reason was that once the third master Lin Bulang died, the position of the third master would be reselect. He, Song Qing, was determined to win this position. Song Qing was thinking of rushing forward to kill Yun Jian before Lin Bulang died. That way, he would be able to increase his chances of competing for the position of the third master in the future. Hong Tiniu narrowed his eyes and waved his hand at Song Qing, signaling him to stop. Then he fixed his gaze on Yun Jian. Falcon Hall's boss Rakshasa? Do you know the consequences of impersonating Falcon Hall's boss, Rakshasa? Hong Tiniu was a smart man. He tried to test Yun Jian. He didn't have any real ability or an imposing aura when he faced problems. He was making a fuss over the death of a member of his own sect. How could such a person become the leader of the biggest gang in Ji province? I don't want to know the consequences. I only know one thing. Today, I will take Wang Suifan and leave. Anyone who stands in my way will die. Yun Jian looked straight into Hong Tiniu's eyes fearlessly as he said those words. Haha, you said you want to take my Suifan away? Then today, even if you are Rakshasa, you won't be able to leave this place. Hong Tiniu's face changed when he heard that Yun Jian wanted to take Wang Suifan away. Hong Tiniu waved his hand and shouted to his brothers behind him. Set up the Tiango gang's inescapable net. Even if she is Rakshasa, she won't be able to escape today. The Tiango gang's inescapable net was well known throughout the country. It was said that none of the members of the underworld who fought against the Tiango gang had ever escaped from the Tiango gang's inescapable net. Wang Suifen's face turned pale when she heard that Hong Tiniu wanted to escape from the inescapable net. Who hadn't heard of the Tiango gang's inescapable net? It was a move that specialized in capturing the strong. Inescapable net? Yin Jian narrowed her eyes when she heard that. She suddenly put away her pistol and stood there empty-handed. She raised her eyebrows and looked at Hong Tiniu. I've never heard of the Tiango gang's inescapable net, but the inescapable net that you speak of that is capable of trapping me. I would like to give it a try. Chapter 2097. A net that could trap Yin Jian? Interesting. Yin Jian raised her eyebrows. Yin Jian's words made Hong Tiniu slightly nervous. Had she not heard of the Tiango gang's net that was well known throughout the country? Was she not afraid? But due to his confidence in the Tiango gang's net, Hong Tiniu narrowed his eyes and looked at Yin Jian. He smiled and said to Song Qing, who was standing behind him, Song Qing, immediately set up the net. Today, I want her to be unable to escape. The net that Hong Tiniu spoke of was actually to wear down the opponent's stamina. When the opponent's strength could not keep up, the net would capture the opponent in one fell swoop. There would be a time when everyone would run out of stamina. For example, let's say you fought with someone. The first time you won, you immediately fought with another person after you won. At this time, your stamina would have been depleted from the first fight. Hence, when you fought with the second person, your stamina would be at a disadvantage. If you won against the second person, you would continue to fight with the third and fourth person. Then, when your stamina was depleted, even if the opponent was a child, they would be able to stab you to death. This was the true face of Hong Tiniu's Tiango gang's net. And Hong Tiniu was not stupid. Compared to many people before him, he was much smarter. If one thought that Hong Tiniu only found ordinary people, then one would be gravely mistaken. Hong Tiniu could afford to hire a high-level assassin, but he used this sum of money to hire over 100 low-level assassins from around the world. With over 100 low-level assassins working together to deal with one person, no matter how strong that person was, there would be a time when their stamina would be depleted. Hong Tiniu's net referred to the 100 low-level assassins that he hired over a long period of time to deal with one person. This was the Tiango gang's biggest trump card. Hearing Hong Tiniu's words, Yin Jian's eyes narrowed even more. Hong Tiniu, you can't do this to her. If you dare to do this to her, I'll kill myself. I'll commit suicide for you to see. Wang Suifen panicked. She didn't want to see another tragedy happen. Stealing her heart, Wang Suifen rushed to the side and smashed a vase in the room. She picked up the broken pieces of the vase and stuck them to her neck. Let her go. I'll stay, or I'll die in front of you right now. Wang Suifen stretched her hand that was holding the broken vase towards her neck. Suifen you. Seeing this, Hong Tiniu sighed. Hong Tiniu truly liked Wang Suifen. Otherwise, he wouldn't have used his power to threaten Wang Suifen after falling in love with her at first sight. If Hong Tiniu didn't truly like Wang Suifen, after getting Wang Suifen, he should have lost interest in Wang Suifen long ago. Who cared if she left or stayed? But why did he order people to protect Wang Suifen? He was afraid that Wang Suifen would leave him. Suifen, put it down. Put it down and I'll let her go. Hong Tiniu was afraid that Wang Suifen would really take things too hard. So he spoke softly. When I leave, I'll take her with me. Unexpectedly, Yin Jian walked up to Wang Suifen in a few steps. She took the broken vase from Wang Suifen's hand and threw it far away. Moreover, I really want to see the legendary inescapable net of the Tiango gang. As she spoke, Yin Jian turned around and looked at Hong Tiniu and the others. Her cold lips curled up and she smiled faintly. A strange look flashed through her eyes, causing Hong Tiniu and the others to panic for no reason. Suifen begged for your life, but you don't appreciate it. Don't blame me for what happens next. Hong Tiniu clenched his fists and said when he heard Yun Jian's tone that she was determined to take Wang Cuifan away. Boss, the inescapable net has been set up. At this moment, Song Qing walked in from outside and whispered into Hong Tiniu's ear. Hearing this, Hong Tiniu laughed at Yun Jian. Then I'll let you experience the power of the Tiango Gang's inescapable net. Even if you're the boss of Zhe Province's Falcon Hall, Luosha, unless you have an impenetrable body, how can you deal with the inescapable net formed by 100 low-level assassins of the Tiango Gang? Hong Tinia's words made Yun Jian squint her eyes. 100 low-level assassins? Hearing Yun Jian's question, Hong Tiniu thought that Yun Jian was afraid. The group of brothers standing behind Hong Tiniu also grinned. So what if she was really the boss of Falcon Hall, Luosha? If she was really the boss of Falcon Hall, then the Tiango Gang would be invincible once they killed the boss of Falcon Hall. Just as the group assumed that Yun Jian was scared out of her wits, Yun Jian, who stood in front of them, smirked and uttered her arrogant words. You're right, I'm not going to let you go. A mere 100 low-level assassins want to block my path? Tiango Gang of Province G, looks like the inescapable net that you're talking about is just this. Chapter 2098. It had to be mentioned that Hong Tiniu was indeed smart. If it was someone else, they would rather hire a powerful high-level assassin than use the money to hire a powerful high-level assassin to hire 100 low-level assassins. But Hong Tiniu did the opposite. In fact, although the strength of a high-level assassin was powerful, there was a limit to his strength. 1 chopstick was easy to break, but 10 chopsticks were hard to break. 3 cobblers were better than 1 zhuge liang. These 2 proverbs were the same as how 100 low-level assassins could compete with a high-level assassin. Even Yun Jian had to be on full alert when facing 100 low-level assassins. But why did she still say such arrogant words after knowing all these? Yun Jian's words were not for anything else, but because she wanted to challenge herself. Perhaps others would think that she, Yun Jian, was powerful enough to reach this stage. But to Yun Jian, her life had just begun. Endlessly challenging the strong, exploding her strength in desperate situations. That was Yun Jian's life goal. What she wanted was to have a fight to the death with those 100 low-level assassins. Sure enough, Hong Tiniu was quickly enraged. He raged, kill. Set up an inescapable net and kill her. After saying that, more than 10 masked assassins rushed in from outside the door, leading the vanguard to surround Yun Jian in a circle from different angles. Yun Jian pushed Wang Cuifan away. Surrounded by more than 10 masked assassins, she fearlessly took out 2 butterfly knives from her thighs and held them in her hands. These 2 butterfly knives were given to her by Muing. Holding the 2 butterfly knives in her hands, she gently raised the red arc. Then let me try and see if you, the 100 low-level assassins, are stronger, or if I am stronger. After her rebirth, she had almost retired from the assassin and agent circle. It had been almost 3 years since she had accepted a mission from the assassin and agent website. Today, the 100 low-level assassins surrounding her reminded her of the past. Seeing Yun Jian holding the 2 butterfly knives in her hands, the low-level assassins who rushed in were slightly stunned. Their pupils constricted, as if they thought of a terrifying person who also used butterfly knives. In spite of it, a dozen low-level assassins charged toward Yun Jian with their weapons in hand. Kill. Kill her. In Hong Tinia's words, kill her directly. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the assassins held their weapons and rushed towards Yun Jian. Yun Jian, who was supposed to be panicking and looking at the assassins around her, only indifferently turned the butterfly knives, so that the blades were below her, and held the hilts. More than a dozen assassins came at her from different angles. At the same time, Yun Jian raised a brow and shifted her legs slightly. Abruptly, right in front of Hong Tiniu and the others, she rolled on the ground and stood on one knee agilely with a slight lift of her hand. At this moment, she turned to look at the other assassins. She didn't even look at the position in her hand. The blade of the butterfly knife in her hand had already pierced through the throat of the first low-level assassin who couldn't react in time. 1 knife to the throat. This speed was so fast that no one present could react in time. This low-level assassin had already fallen to the ground and was no longer breathing. The other low-level assassin's pupils constricted. just as they were about to attack Yun Jian from the side. They saw Yun Jian kick the low-level assassin's abdomen after his throat was slit. At the same time, she turned around and nimbly moved the butterfly knives at a speed that no one could see clearly. She flashed past the low-level assassins. By the time everyone reacted, Yun Jian had already brushed past a dozen low-level assassins. Her figure was clearly engraved in front of Hong Tinyu and the rest. After her figure flashed past, the low-level assassins all fell to the ground without exception. There weren't many people in the house. The remaining 80 low-level assassins surrounded the door and waited for the second attack. More than 10 low-level assassins died under her blade in 10 seconds. One low-level assassin was killed in 1 second. When Hong Tinyu and the rest in the house reacted, they looked over and saw that the low-level assassins had all fallen to the ground. When they saw clearly that the low-level assassins' necks, right below their chins, in the middle of their throats, were all stabbed in the same spot. The fatal spots of the low-level assassins were all in one place. At this moment, Yun Jian was already standing at the door and looking at the 80 low-level assassins standing outside. At the same time, she was stepping on the corpse of a low-level assassin who couldn't react in time. She held the butterfly knife with both hands and looked like an emissary from hell. The blade was so fast that it killed the low-level assassins without a single drop of blood on the blade. When Hong Tinyu and the rest saw this scene, their hearts suddenly tightened. In 10 seconds, she killed more than 10 low-level assassins. Her figure was like a ghost. Her blade was so fast that it didn't even have a single drop of blood on it. Just who was she? Chapter 2099. Yun Jian had used less than 10 seconds to finish off the first batch of low-level assassins who had rushed into the house with her butterfly knives. Her speed shocked Hong Tinyu and the rest. Stop. 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 I promise you. Hong Tinyu's eyes darted around. Seeing that the situation was not good, he made a prompt decision to stop Yun Jian. The commission for hiring 100 low-level assassins was not cheap. With 10 low-level assassins dead, the Tiango gang had suffered a great loss. If Yun Jian continued to kill, Hong Tinyu was certain that Yun Jian had the ability to kill 100 low-level assassins from the Tiango gang. Then the Tiango gang would be finished. Such a terrifying woman. She must be the boss of Falcon Hall, Rakshasa. I'll stop just because you asked me to. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Yun Jian held the 2 butterfly knives in her hands and walked towards the 80 low-level assassins as she spoke. However, before Yun Jian walked out of the door, Hong Tinyu made another concession. I'll let you take my wife away. As long as you let go, I, Hong Tinyu, will promise you 3 things in the future. As long as I can do it, I won't go back on my words. I swear on the name of the Tiango gang. Hong Tinyu's words made Yun Jian, who had achieved her goal, put the butterfly knives back into the tight parts of her thighs. Although the people in the underworld were all gangsters, they were the most loyal, even though they may be distasteful in some ways. Yun Jian heard this and looked at Hong Tinyu from the corner of her eyes. She planned to stop now. Remember what you said. After that, she beckoned Wang Tsuifan to leave with her. Wang Tsuifan was stunned when she left. She did not expect Hong Tinyu to really let go. Although it was good to use the 100 low-level assassins as practice, Yun Jian was not stupid enough to get herself into trouble. Although the Heavenly Dog gang was beneath her notice, having one more enemy meant that she would have one more person to kick her when she was down one day. When a person was in their prime, they could trample on anyone and treat them like ants. However, there was one thing that they had to remember. If one day they accidentally fell from grace, then the people that they had offended in the past would do everything they could to make them fall into hell. As for you who is in dire straits, you might not even be able to resist an ant. Not to mention a group of ants. Yun Jian knew this very well. So when she made a move, she either cut the weeds and eliminate the roots to prevent future trouble, or she would stop at a certain point. Seeing that Yun Jian had left with Wang Tsuifan, Song Qing was still thinking about the position of the third elder. Thus he went to Hong Tinyu's ear and whispered, "Boss, do you want me to send someone to kill her? Bring Madam back." Can you do it? Hong Tinyu pushed Song Qing away. What about Madam? Are we just going to watch Madame return to that destitute countryside? Song Qing asked again. I have my own plans. Hong Tiniu shouted angrily. He kicked the door open and walked out. Yun Jian brought Wang Cuifan and rushed back to Wuzhendali village overnight. When Lu Ying and Lu Shi saw that Wang Cuifan had returned, both of them were stunned. Is it Mom? Sister really brought Mom back? Did we really see Mom? Lu Ying stood there in disbelief. When Wang Cuifan left, her younger brother Lu Shi was still young. When he saw Wang Cuifan, blood was thicker than water. Relying on his family, he immediately pounced on her. Mom. After Wang Cuifan left and her father passed away, Lu Ying, who was only 10 years old, took on the job of supporting the family. When she saw Wang Cuifan, she was stunned. She stood there in a daze and did not move for a long time. Ying. When Wang Cuifan saw Lu Ying, tears flowed down her face. She carried her son Lu Shi, walked over, squatted down and hugged Lu Ying. Then she cried bitterly. Yin Jian saw this and smiled slightly. Then, she walked out of the door and left some space for her mother and child, who she had not seen for a long time. Just as she stepped out of the door, her phone beeped with a text message. It was from Qin Yiru and the message read, You're reading this from me. Xiao Jian, come home this weekend. Something happened at home. Chapter 2100. Qin Yiru did not mention what had happened in the message. Qin Yiru usually did not send messages. If she could send her a message, it meant that something must have happened at home. Yun Jian typed the word yes in the text message editing box on her phone and clicked send. Then, she hid her phone in her trouser pocket and walked to the door. Mommy, it's Mommy. Mommy is really back. Ying is not dreaming, right? Sister said that Mommy would definitely come back. Sister did not lie to Ying. Lu Ying's trembling voice rang out. There was a trace of disbelief in her trembling voice, but she could not help but believe it. Even though Yun Jian was standing outside the door, she could feel the trembling that came from the depths of Lu Ying's soul. After her mother left and her father passed away, a teenager took on the responsibility of supporting the family. She had to take care of her sick grandmother and take care of her younger brother to and from school. She even had to work in the fields, raise chickens, ducks, and sheep to support the family. This was indescribable for a child who was still 7 or 8 years away from adulthood. Many people went to university empty-handed and had to ask their parents for money to eat and drink well every day. And for a child from a poor mountain area, she did not even have the right to have a full childhood. After Wang Cuifan and the 2 children cried and calmed down, they insisted that Yun Jian stay for a few days. However, Yun Jian insisted that she leave that night. Wang Cuifan took the 2 children and sent Yun Jian on the mountain road for a few hours. She bowed and thanked Yun Jian as she sent Yun Jian out of Wuzhen. She almost knelt down to Yun Jian. The moment Yun Jian left, Lu Ying looked at her and suddenly asked, What's the matter? Sister, will you come again in the future? Although she had only spent a few days with Yun Jian had found the most important mother in her life. To Lu Ying, Yun Jian was different. Maybe. Yun Jian did not give a definite answer. If Big Sister can't find me, I'll find Big Sister in the future. The teacher said that as long as I study hard, I can leave Wuzhen and study in a big city. Sister, I will study hard. Lu Ying seemed to have made up her mind. She shouted at Yun Jian. Yes. Yun Jian nodded. Then she left Wuzhen. The next morning was Friday. The weather on Friday was very hazy. Dark clouds covered the sky, and the wind was a little strong. After December, the weather was gradually approaching winter. In this kind of weather, it seemed as if it would drizzle at any time. In winter, there was rarely thunder. Yun Jian wore a pure white down jacket, which made her complexion look just right. After checking the results of the martial arts club members' training in the morning, Yun Jian took the bus back to Longmen City. On the way back, he returned with Liang Xiaomin. Liang Xiaomin, the daughter of a rich family, was ordered by her father to take the bus home in the future. Perhaps it was because she had gone to the poor mountainous area. Liang Xiaomin's spoiled temper was much toned down. Just as she parted ways with Liang Xiaomin at the station and returned home, Yun Jian saw Qin Yiru with a white mourning cloth tied around her head. and another piece of mourning cloth tied around her hand. Yunyi was sitting beside her. Yunyi was dressed similarly to Qin Yiru, but the difference was that Yunyi had a white mourning dress draped over her. Xiao Jian, you're back? Qin Yiru asked tiredly when she saw Yun Jian. Mom, what's wrong? Yun Jian asked. Your grandmother passed away. She took a stab for your biological father, Qin Yiru explained. Wearing mourning clothes meant that someone in the family had passed away. Her grandmother was Lu Lanhua, and her biological father was Yun Gang. Yun Jian did not feel anything when she heard that. Qin Yiru came over and told Yun Jian earnestly, even if she didn't treat us well, she shouldn't have passed away. No matter how bad she was to us when she was alive, it's reasonable for us to send her off. Xiao Yi and I went to the crematorium today, and we'll bury her tomorrow. Xiao Jian, you should go too. She wasn't your biological grandmother, but we were born in the countryside. You'll be laughed at if you don't go. Chapter 2101. After Qin Yiru knew that Yun Jian was not the real Yun Jian, she did not force her to do anything anymore. However, a girl's reputation was very important. Even if Yun Jian already had CE, even if she was not the real Yun Jian, at least, in Qin Yiru's opinion, she did not want to be gossiped about. In the countryside, no matter how the elderly treated you when they were alive, if you were calculative after they passed away, you would be the one who would be gossiped about. Lu Lanhua did not die of illness. Yun Gang was being hunted down by the people who lost the gamble 2 years ago. He had been on the run for 2 years, and his debt from the loan sharks had grown. Yun Gang had left Longmen City and Jia Province to hide from the loan sharks for 2 years. He had returned to Longmen City this time to repent, and take his old mother away from here to start a new life. He did not expect the loan sharks to rush to his door to collect the debt when they learned of his return. Both parties had a dispute, and Lu Lanhua had taken a stab for Yun Gang when one of them stabbed him in the heart. The loan sharks were afraid of a life after all, so they fled in fright when they saw Lu Lanhua taking a stab for Yun Gang. Yun Jian did not feel anything even when she heard this. Lu Lanhua's death didn't bring her any sadness. Yun Jian, on the other hand, only looked at where Yunyi was not far away. She saw her brother Yunyi's blank expression, obviously sorrowful. It was not hard to understand. Lu Lanhua favored boys over girls and scoffed at Yun Jian and Qin Yiru, but she was really good to Yunyi. From the original owner's memories, Lu Lanhua had saved a few days' worth of food for Yun Yi just to buy a piece of meat for him to eat. She wanted to eat something good, so she could save a few days' worth of food for him. To Yun Jian and Qin Yiru, Lu Lanhua was detestable, but to Yunyi, she was also a good grandmother who had been very kind to her. People were like this. Even if a person treated you badly, that person would still have people they wanted to treat well, and they would also have their own circle of life. Yun Jian could not help sighing. Of course, Yun Jian could not restrain Yunyi and make Yunyi not feel sad after Lu Lanhua's death like her. Everyone's way of life was different, and outsiders treated them differently as well. Yun Jian would not restrain anyone from hating someone she detested. There was only one thing she could do. If anyone bullied her, she would pay them back 100-fold. She would not interfere with how the person who bullied her treated others. Coming back to reality, Yun Jian stared at Yunyi, who was wiping his tears in silence for 2 seconds before asking Qin Yiru, "Does Mom want me to go?" Yes. Not because of anything else, but because of Qin Yiru's words, Yun Jian agreed. Early on Saturday morning, around 4 in the morning, Yun Jian did not have time to go for her morning exercise. She took the car back to Xinjiang town with Qin Yiru and Yunyi. This time, Qin Yiru had already gotten Gu Yunjian's permission to send Lu Lanhua back. Gu Yunjian was a soldier, and was extremely righteous. Naturally, he would not be calculative about this. When sending the deceased up the mountain to be buried, they usually had to wake up early. When Yun Jian and the other two arrived at Xinjiang town, it was already past 6 in the morning. Lu Lanhua's relatives and friends were all there. There were many banquets set up in front of her house. For happy events and funerals in the countryside, they would hold banquets and invite relatives and friends from all walks of life. When Yun Jian arrived, she saw people she did not know. These people naturally had nothing to do with her. When she arrived, it was already past 6 in the morning. There were many banquets set up in front of Yun Gang's house. Relatives from all walks of life took their seats. The ones who cooked and served the dishes were usually old women from the countryside. Most of them were gossipy women. These gossipy women were talkative, but when it came to crucial moments, their hearts were not bad. Yun Jian also sat on a bench in front of a banquet table. Actually, there were many mourners this morning, but those who truly cried in pain for the deceased were in the minority. Usually, distant relatives only came to eat a sumptuous breakfast, lunch and dinner. For distant relatives, the funeral banquet was also a happy occasion. When Yun Jian sat down, some of the distant relatives around them noticed Qin Yiru's arrival. "Isn't this Yun Gang's ex-wife Yiru? Why are you here?" A balding middle-aged man looked at Qin Yiru and asked. There was no hint of sadness from Lu Lanhua's death on his face. "She's the child's grandmother after all. I brought the child here to remember her," explained Qin Yiru, who was genuinely saddened by Lu Lanhua's death. "Oh," the balding middle-aged man nodded. A middle-aged woman sitting next to the balding middle-aged man glanced at Yun Jian, then asked Qin Yiru, "Sister, this is your daughter. I remember her name is Yun Jian, right?" Then, without waiting for Qin Yiru's reply, the middle-aged woman turned to Yun Jian and asked, "Daughter, why aren't you sad about your grandmother's death?" Once the middle-aged woman asked, the people around them turned to look. However, Yun Jian lifted her head slightly. Her cold eyes moved as she replied indifferently, "Why should I be sad? Chapter 2102. Yun Jian's words stunned everyone present. The middle-aged woman was also slightly taken aback, then she said, "Isn't she your biological grandmother? Look at your brother, he's so sad that he can't eat. Everyone dies eventually. It's not a bad thing for her to be released early." Yun Jian interrupted the middle-aged woman, and picked up her chopsticks to eat the breakfast on the table. Lu Lanhua was despicable, but Yun Jian wasn't worried or happy about her death. After Yun Gang borrowed money from the loan sharks, he ran away for 2 years. Yun Zheng was protected by Yun Jian, but those loan sharks didn't dare to mess with Yun Zheng, so they splashed chicken blood and released snakes to Lu Lanhua's house every day. Yun Jian had killed so many people. To be honest, even when her younger brother was brutally killed by Lang Sha in her previous life, she didn't feel such extreme despair. She only hated herself for not being strong enough. Perhaps she, Yun Jian, was a cold-blooded person. "Io, little girl, are you cursing your grandmother to die early?" This middle-aged woman was really trying to find a topic. After hearing Yun Jian's words, she immediately raised her voice and spoke loudly enough that everyone at the surrounding tables could hear her voice. Lu Lanhua's group of relatives and friends obviously didn't know Yun Jian's identity. They all thought that Yun Jian was just an ordinary young girl who went to school. "Mom, I'm quite sad about Grandaunt's death. This is her biological grandmother. If she's not sad, isn't she a little too inhumane?" A girl who looked about the same age as Yun Jian sat beside the middle-aged woman. The girl immediately spoke. The grandaunt that the girl was talking about was Lu Lanhua. Without a doubt, this middle-aged woman was the daughter of Lu Lanhua's biological sister, and the girl was the granddaughter of Lu Lanhua's biological sister. They were considered distant relatives. In fact, that was indeed the case. The girl's name was Hong Junhua. She was 17 years old this year, and was in high school. This middle-aged woman's name was Chen Yilan. The bald middle-aged father and son were Hong Junhua's father, Hong Taishan. Yun Jian couldn't find anything related to Hong Junhua's distant relatives in the original owner's memories, but she did find something she heard from Qin Yiru. It was said that Lu Lanhua's sister's daughter, who was also Chen Yilan's husband, Hong Taishan, had set up a plastic processing factory a few years ago and made a small fortune. Then he expanded the plastic processing factory and made a big fortune. Now they had moved to a first-tier city to live. It was said that they had even bought a sports car, which was very high-end. It could be said that he bought a house in a big city, drove a sports car, and lived in a luxurious mansion. Just now, when Hong Taishan talked to Qin Yiru, it was because he wanted to show off in front of his relatives and friends that he had made a fortune. But if he wanted to show off, he had to find someone, right? Hong Taishan started a conversation with Qin Yiru. Of course, before he could finish, his wife, Chen Yilan, and daughter, Hong Junhua, interrupted him. Chen Yilan and Hong Junhua were feeling smug, thinking that their family had struck it rich. They had to take advantage of Lu Lanhua's funeral to show off and satisfy their vanity. Only Yun Jian, Qin Yiru, and a few others were sitting with them, so they naturally found a topic to talk about. People from the countryside were most afraid of being badmouthed, especially when a girl's reputation was the most important. At least, Qin Yiru cared a lot about it. It couldn't be helped if she was called old-fashioned. Being born in the countryside, her character was nurtured. Hearing Hong Junhua talk about her daughter like that, Qin Yiru could not help standing up and speaking up. Moreover, there were many gossipy women sitting around them. My Xiaojian isn't that kind of person. She's quite kind. Then she's inhumane. She doesn't know how to be sad when her grandmother passes away. Hong Junhua cut her off with the tone she used in school, which she used to speak in a foreign tone to her classmates. As she spoke, Hong Junhua was smug, thinking that she was different from the country bumpkins around her. She went to a high school in a big city. What she said was not on the same level as the country bumpkins around her. Just as Hong Junhua finished her smug declaration, Yun Jian had the last mouthful of porridge and put the bowl down. Pressing her lips together, there was not a hint of emotion in her eyes as she spoke coldly. You're right. You're not the only one who said that I'm inhumane, but you're the only one who's still alive after saying so. Chapter 21:14. As the old lady spoke, she attracted everyone's attention. At this time, the handsome man in his early 30s had already gotten out of the silver-gray supersports car and was walking over quickly. The middle-aged man, who was in his 40s and had a big beer belly and exuded the aura of a middle-aged man, walked towards the handsome man in his early 30s with his feet splayed outwards. Then, under the gaze of a group of people who were attracted over, she hugged the handsome man who was in his 30s. Come, let me introduce you. This is my younger cousin, Zhang Junyi. When Junyi heard that his aunt passed away, he immediately flew back from New York in Country M to show his filial piety. He came late today, but his thoughts have been received, haha. The middle-aged man chuckled as he introduced the handsome man who was in his early 30s to the crowd. Zhang Junyi was of the same generation as Qin Yiru and the middle-aged man. However, Zhang Junyi's mother gave birth to him later, so he was more than 10 years older than Qin Yiru and the middle-aged man. Zhang Junyi's mother and Yin Zhong were biological siblings, so they could be considered close relatives. However, Zhang Junyi's relationship with the Yin family wasn't particularly good, so he rarely came back. At least, in Yin Jian's memories, there was no memory of this person. However, Zhang Junyi and the original owner were technically related by blood, so they could be considered distant relatives. After the middle-aged man finished speaking, someone immediately stood up and asked him, Little Zhang, is this your younger cousin, the great scientist who made a fortune? When they heard that Zhang Junyi had made a fortune, and that he had gotten out of a silver-gray supercar, the crowd became excited. This silver-gray supercar was obviously more high-end than Chen Yilan's and Hong Taishan's, so the crowd quickly became excited. Zhang Junyi's supercar was comparable to Yun Jian's Ferrari in terms of appearance. It was hard to tell which car was more expensive. Those who didn't know the industry could only estimate the value of a car based on its appearance. That's right. This kid is extremely rich now. He deals with international business tycoons and peers all day long. Now he's settled in New York of Country M, and even bought an apartment in New York. His net worth is at least tens of millions. The middle-aged man proudly put his arm around Zhang Junyi's shoulder and helped him brag. Zhang Junyi himself didn't look too smug. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, the surrounding people were stunned again, and they even let out, oh, sounds of surprise. Zhang Junyi's arrival not only stunned the surrounding people, but even Chen Yilan, who had been focusing on Yun Jian, also stared at Zhang Junyi. Chen Yilan hated meeting relatives who were richer than her. She glared at Zhang Junyi so fiercely that her eyeballs almost fell out. Zhang Junyi's cousin, the middle-aged man, had long been displeased with Chen Yilan's bragging. Now that he saw Chen Yilan's glare, he cocked his head proudly and said to Zhang Junyi, Junyi, Didn't you recently discover a female corpse with a group of international experts that won't rot? They said that if the research is done well, you can even get a large sum of money. I even took a picture of it. Let's show it to everyone. Zhang Junyi was involved in scientific research. He studied bizarre events that transcended reality. The middle-aged man's words stunned Zhang Junyi. However, Zhang Junyi still took out a photo from his trouser pocket gracefully. The middle-aged man directly snatched the photo from Zhang Junyi and showed it to everyone present one by one. Look, this is the female corpse that my cousin and the others recently researched. I heard that there are no signs of decomposition, even after 3 or 4 years. It's amazing. If my cousin and the experts can research it, they'll probably get a lot of money. Zhang Junyi had once researched something that others couldn't, so he received a lot of money. Now his family was worth more than tens of millions. He was considered rich in this era. The middle-aged man's words resounded throughout the venue. Hearing this, Zhang Junyi's eyes darkened and he explained, "We haven't started researching this female corpse yet." Before Zhang Junyi could finish, the middle-aged man showed off the photo in front of everyone. The moment the photo flashed before Yunjian's eyes, Yunjian only glanced at it unintentionally. In the photo was a 16-year-old girl. The girl was wearing a light leather jacket and a pair of tight leather pants. The girl's beautiful figure was wrapped in it, and at the tight part of the leather pants, there was a pistol tied to her thigh. One could tell at a glance that the girl's identity was definitely different from ordinary people. She wore a pair of clean flats and was lying on a wooden bed. She looked so peaceful as if she was just in a deep sleep. When Yunjian saw the girl in the photo, she only glanced at her subconsciously. The next second, her eyes darkened and she grabbed the photo. Her sharp eyes moved fiercely as she asked, "Where did you put the girl in the photo?" The girl in the photo was none other than her real self before her rebirth. She was the physical body of slaying God. Chapter 21:15. Yunjian had sent people to look for her physical body more than once, but it was as if she had disappeared from the world in her previous life. There was no news of her at all. Who would have thought that they would find her body in her previous life here? Zhang Junyi was an international scientific researcher. Although he was only in his 30s, Zhang Junyi's grades were quite good when he was in school. Later, he was recommended to study abroad, and he slowly climbed to where he was today. Moreover, he was considered young and promising in this group of people. He was only in his early 30s, but Zhang Junyi had already researched many things that others could not research in their lifetime. In the field of scientific research, if you researched or discovered something new that had a huge impact on a country, or even the whole world, then the reward for such a discovery would be enough to provide for you for the rest of your life. Of course, only outstanding people could research or discover new things. Zhang Junyi's brain allowed him to discover many things, and that was how he became rich. Therefore, Zhang Junyi's relatives and friends respectfully called him a great scientist. As for the female corpse in the photo, it was found by someone. When it was found, the female corpse was still lying quietly on the ground. Her cheeks were rosy, and her skin was glossy and elastic. She looked as if she was just in a deep sleep. The person who found the corpse called the female corpse a few times, but there was no response. Therefore, he reached out to check if the female corpse was breathing. In the end, he found that the female corpse was already dead. He was so scared that he quickly called the police. When the person who performed the autopsy came over, he was surprised to find that the female corpse had not decomposed even though she had been dead for 3 to 4 years. Other than the fact that her heart and brain had stopped working, there were no signs of death at all. Normal corpses would start to decompose in less than half a month after death. However, this female corpse had been dead for 3 to 4 years, and there were no signs of decomposition at all. Moreover, the female corpse was not sealed in a huge instrument that would not decompose. In other words, this was a rather bizarre incident. Therefore, in order to ensure the integrity of the corpse, the experts placed the corpse in a tomb that had just been excavated not long ago and guarded it closely. They also prepared to let the researchers gradually study the female corpse in detail in the near future. Ever since the female corpse was found, it had not been studied yet. When Zhang Junyi's cousin found out about this, The middle-aged man wanted to use this matter to show off in front of his relatives and friends. He instantly mentioned that if this research was successful, his cousin would really make a fortune. Therefore, the middle-aged man boasted in front of everyone. After all, they were surrounded by a group of ignorant country bumpkins. It would be best if they were shocked by his boasting. What the middle-aged man did not expect, however, was that Yunjian would snatch the photo from him and ask where the person in the photo was placed when he was bragging about it. The middle-aged man was stunned. He reached out to grab the photo from Yunjian's hand and muttered, "Little girl, what do you know? This is a place that only researchers can enter. Only great scientists like my cousin can enter. Even if you ask, you won't be able to enter. Hurry up and take the photos back." The middle-aged man rolled his eyes in his heart and thought to himself, "Children these days are really nosy." He just wanted to show off his cousin, Zhang Junyi, in front of his friends and relatives. Who would have thought that a little girl like Yunjian would join in on the fun? The middle-aged man wanted to forcibly take the photo back from Yunjian's hand, but Yunjian moved sideways and avoided the middle-aged man's attempt to take the photo back from her hand. Yunjian turned sideways and looked at Zhang Junyi from the corner of her eyes in front of everyone. Her sharp black eyes sized up Zhang Junyi, and she repeated her words, word by word. "Tell me, where is the girl in the photo?" Chapter 21:16. Looking at Yunjian's focus gaze, the people around them blinked. Qin Yiru was serving the dishes while Yin Yi and Qin Yu were not around. Zhang Junyi, who received Yunjian's gaze, could not help turning to study Yunjian. This girl's gaze was so sharp. This made Zhang Junyi, who did not take Yunjian seriously, look at Yunjian. Just as Zhang Junyi was about to answer, Chen Yilan, who was already at odds with Yunjian, chuckled in a strange tone. "Yo, hee, pretending to know when you don't? I've never seen a girl like you before. Just because you're young you scolded my daughter, hee. You even said that my family's car has low specs, making you look so high and mighty. Now you're poking your nose into other people's research. Why do you always have a part in everything?" Chen Yilan, who spoke, rolled her eyes at Yunjian in what she thought was a flirtatious manner. However, Yunjian did not mind. She only stared at Zhang Junyi with her gaze that was as sharp as a sword, waiting for his reply. "Junyi, this girl must be out of her mind. Don't bother about her. Just give this photo to her. Come, let's have dinner and drink while we chat." Seeing that Yunjian did not listen to him, the middle-aged man felt embarrassed. He waved at Zhang Junyi as he spoke, wanting to lead Zhang Junyi to one of the banquet tables that had been set up. In Marilena's tomb in Country M, Zhang Junyi did not listen to the middle-aged man or Chen Yilan. He narrowed his eyes and spoke to Yunjian after the middle-aged man finished speaking. This little girl attracted his attention. "Thank you." Yunjian retracted her gaze and thanked Zhang Junyi before turning to leave. The moment she turned her back to Zhang Junyi, Yunjian's eyes flashed with an imperceptible light. "What a strange girl." Zhang Junyi shook his head and laughed as he watched Yunjian walk away. After dinner, everyone returned home. Only a few of Lu Lanhua's closest relatives were still there. After all, Yunyi had feelings for Lu Lanhua. To Yunyi, Lu Lanhua was his irreplaceable grandmother. Although he was disgusted by how Lu Lanhua had treated his mother and sister when she was alive. In the evening, Lu Lanhua's closest relatives went up the mountain to light a lantern for her. In the words of the village's superstitions, it was to prevent the deceased from feeling afraid because of the darkness on the mountain on the first night of her burial. Yunjian waited for Yin Yi and Qin Yiru to be done before they drove back to Longmen City. It was already 7:30 in the evening. Not long after they drove out of Xinjiang town, there was a traffic jam. It was not really a traffic jam. It was the car of Chen Yilan's family, who had been unhappy with Yunjian since the morning, collided with another car. It was not that serious. It was just the collision of the two cars that scraped against each other, and scraped off some paint on the car. The driver of the car coming from the opposite direction said that he had collided with Chen Yilan's family's car, and that both parties were responsible, so he did not call the police and settled the matter in private. The driver was in a hurry to leave because he had something urgent to attend to. In the end, Chen Yilan blocked the road like a shrew. demanding the driver to take full responsibility and compensate for her emotional distress. The shrew's tirade was incessant, comparable to the way she scolded Yunjian earlier. Chen Yilan even parked her family's car in the middle of the road, saying that if the driver did not take full responsibility and compensate for her emotional distress, no one should drive on this road. Her shameless behavior made the driver frown. Chen Yilan left late today as well, but she had been stuck here for half an hour already. Just as the driver was rushing for time, thinking that he would just pay for the shrew he met today, he suddenly saw Yunjian alighting from a Ferrari sports car. The moment he saw Yunjian, the driver's eyes shone. He even abandoned his car and stumbled toward Yunjian in front of Chen Yilan and everyone else. New Cruise's director. I heard that you went back to your hometown, so I came looking for you. Hello. I'm Su Wenjiang, Shengdi's director. Chapter 21:17. New Cruise's director? Chen Yilan put her hands on her waist. She was quite fat and didn't look very good. Her nose was very big, and her nostrils were so big that they were about the size of an adult's finger. Her nose was flat, her face was round, and her face was full of wrinkles. However, she was wearing lipstick and foundation that made her look like a young girl. New Cruise's director? The driver who had just collided with her sports car had actually rushed over and addressed Yunjian as New Cruise's director. He had even used such a respectful tone. Chen Yilan was dumbfounded. She stared blankly at the scene before her. Yunjian. This girl who was about the same age as her daughter, Hong Junhua, and whom she had not treated with respect before, was actually the internationally renowned director of New Cruise. That was impossible. Moreover, the driver she had just argued with was once the director of the largest car marketing company in Country Z, Saint Disco. New Cruise and Saint Disco were both renowned car marketing companies in Country Z. Before New Cruise, Saint Disco was once the largest car marketing company in Country Z. Now, not only had New Cruise taken away Saint Disco's title as the largest car marketing company in Country Z, it had even stepped onto the international platform before Saint Disco. Of course, even with New Cruise, Saint Disco's reputation was not something that Chen Yilan and the rest, who had started their business in plastic processing and had some savings, could compete with. To make an analogy, it was like the difference between an ant and an elephant. Chen Yilan's face was as white as a sheet. Her body froze instantly like a puppet whose strings had been cut. She was stunned on the spot. Just as Chen Yilan's face was as white as a sheet, Saint Disco's director, Su Wenjiang, spoke to Yunjian respectfully and carefully. New Cruise's director, it's like this. Ever since New Cruise stepped onto the international platform, Saint Disco's monthly car sales have been on a downward trend. If this continues, Saint Disco won't be able to continue operating at a loss. Look at you. You're so young, and yet you've managed to get to where you are today. I'm truly amazed by your capabilities. Since we're in the same industry, can you give Saint Disco some leeway? The CEO of Shengdi, Su Wenjiang, spoke carefully to Yunjian. It was obvious that Su Wenjiang's Shengdi had always been New Cruise's competitor. Now that New Cruise had entered the international market, the first big car company that the citizens in the country chose to buy cars was New Cruise. The main reason was that not only was New Cruise's prices affordable, but the car salesman's service was top-notch as well. If word of this brand got out, they could even flaunt their wealth. Under such circumstances, Su Wenjiang's Shengdi company's sales were declining day by day. Today, Su Wenjiang's Shengdi company could no longer operate its funds. If this continued, it was very likely that it would face bankruptcy. Left with no choice, Su Wenjiang heard that New Cruise's director would be coming to Xinjiang town today, so he drove there without stopping to rest. Since he heard that the director of New Cruise was a young lady, Su Wenjiang had rushed over to see if he could get some sympathy from the director of New Cruise to spare them. After all, she was a young girl. Not to mention that she was a girl, she didn't have much life experience, and was very easy to fool. Perhaps if he said a few more words, she would agree? As long as she spared his Shengdi company, it would only be a matter of time before he made a comeback and toppled New Cruise. In ancient times there was a case of the king of Yu, Go Jian, gifting a beauty to the king of Wu, Fu Chai. In the end, He endured the humiliation and destroyed the Wu kingdom. As long as he could fool this young lady into sparing him today, he wouldn't have to worry about Shengdi not being able to topple new crews in the future. He Su Wenjiang refused to accept that his once largest car company in country Z had been snatched away by a young lady who had just come of age. However, just as Su Wenjiang thought that Yun Jian would agree, Yun Jian tilted her head to look at Su Wenjiang and denied it. No. Su Wenjiang was stunned as he thought that as a girl, Yun Jian would be too embarrassed to reject him. By then, Yun Jian had one foot in her red Ferrari sports car. Before she closed the door, she glanced at Su Wenjiang from the corner of her eyes and left him with a merciless remark. Perhaps after your company goes bankrupt, I can be merciful and buy your company at a high price. Chapter 21:18. After that, Yun Jian's lips curled into a smile. She looked like she was sneering and mocking at the same time. She got into the red Ferrari right in front of everyone. A young lady in her prime would probably not be able to shed all pretenses of cordiality when faced with such a situation. Girls cared a lot about their reputation and were too embarrassed to reject people most of the time. Su Wenjiang initially thought that Yun Jian would be the same, which was why he boldly came to beg Yun Jian to let Shengdi off the hook. He wanted to give Shengdi a few car orders from new crews. Su Wenjiang had even prepared a contract that was beneficial to Shengdi. As long as he tricked Yun Jian into signing and stamping on the contract, it would be legally binding. Then, even if new crews did not want to admit it, they would still have to split half of the sales with him. If Yun Jian was a normal university student, she might have signed and stamped her name, falling into Su Wenjiang's trap after being lured in by Su Wenjiang's embellished words. The older the ginger, the spicier it was. That saying made sense. However, Yun Jian was not a normal university student. Therefore, before Su Wenjiang could use his words to trick Yun Jian rejected him decisively. She even said that after Su Wenjiang's company went bankrupt, she would be merciful and buy his company at a high price. Su Wenjiang almost vomited blood when he heard that. However, Su Wenjiang held it in. So, you're still not going to let us pass, Mr. CEO of Shengdi? Yun Jian raised her brows and threatened Su Wenjiang. Su Wenjiang clenched his fists and ran to make way for them. After all, he did not have the right to be arrogant in front of Yun Jian. With new crews' current capabilities, it was not impossible for them to trip up Shengdi. After the road was cleared, Yun Jian stepped on the accelerator. The fiery red flagship limited edition Ferrari LaFerrari sped forward like a flash of lightning. At the next junction, it drifted away at lightning speed and left everyone's sight. Chen Yilan and her family of 3 were left dumbfounded. She was the director of New Cruise. No wonder she could afford a sports car. I heard that New Cruise's annual net profit is in the hundreds of millions. Compared to her New Cruise, her family's plastic processing factory was just a silly joke. It was already 9:30 p.m. when they returned home to Longmen City. Yun Jian and Yin Yi parked their cars. At the same time, Yun Jian and the others were walking towards Gu Yunjian's house. Before they reached Gu Yunjian's house, a few figures suddenly walked out from the side. Chun Sini giggled and skipped over with a red veil in her hand. Mo Sun and Adam, who had not been seen for a long time, were standing at the gate. Luo Meiqi and Lan Su, who was carrying a child, also stood at the side, laughing secretly. What's wrong? Yun Jian was very confused. Sister. Eat. A lively figure sprung out from the bushes. It was Xiao Yunju who was leading the way, pulling Duan Li and Duanya over as he shouted. Before he could finish, his mouth was covered by Lung Mei, who appeared out of nowhere. If you dare spout nonsense, I'll make your ass eat. Lung Mei pouted and glared at Xiao Yunju like she was afraid that Yun Jian would find out about the big secret from Xiao Yunju. Xiao Yunju blinked at the threat and kept quiet. Chun Sini went to Yun Jian and folded her veil before covering Yun Jian's eyes with it. Jian, don't move. Quick. Let me show you something. Yun Jian was confused, but when she saw how excited everyone around her was, she followed Chun Sini's lead to her and Siyi's villa, and went inside. I'll remove your veil on the count of 3. 3, 2, 1. As she spoke, Chen Sini removed the veil that covered Yunjian's eyes. What caught Yunjian's eyes were the roses that were strewn all over the floor under the orange light of the house. From the living room to the stairs, from the stairs to the upper floor, the kitchen, the balcony, and everything else were covered with roses. The roses were arranged in various heart shapes and there was a wide variety of them. It was impossible to create such a lineup without spending days and nights. Inside the house, there was a total of 99,999 roses, which covered the entire villa. Yunjian sucked in a breath and was stunned for a moment. Before Yunjian could figure out what was going on, a slender figure flashed from the side, and a handsome face appeared before her. Her hand was raised by the person who came, and a silver ring that shone under the orange light was put on her right ring finger. Then Ce, who had never knelt to anyone before, knelt down on one knee in front of Yunjian, right in front of everyone. Looking at Yunjian sincerely, his thin lips moved as he spoke in a domineering tone that did not allow her to refute. "Xiao Jian, marry me." Chapter 21:19. There was a hint of anticipation on Si Yi's chiseled face. After he put the ring on Yunjian's right ring finger domineeringly, he knelt down on one knee in front of Yunjian in front of everyone. Chen Sini, Lan Su, Luo Mei, Leng Mei, and Qing Yu almost clapped and cheered at his action. Emo's son, Adam, and Zhang Xiaofeng, Ling Yichen, and a few other men who were present with Chen Sini were not as enthusiastic as the women, but all of them had meaningful looks on their faces. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green at the moment. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for your reading. Chapter 21:20. Ce did not know how to say sweet nothings, nor did he know how to do anything romantic. There was a type of person who was born high and mighty, as if he was the ruler of all things. His entire body exuded a sense of holiness that no one could underestimate. Even if he did things that were no different from ordinary people, his nobility made him stand out from the masses. Obviously, Ce was such a person. He had always been high and mighty, and even disdained to speak to others. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. Chapter 21:21. After taking off her clothes, Ce went straight into Yunjian's room. Inside the room, the night was long, just waiting for him to lift that mysterious veil, and see behind that veil of enchantment, and sink into depravity. After leaving Yunjian and Ci's house, Chen Sini was sent home by Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen. Emosen also took Luo Berry away. Adam took the little boy, Zhouyiran, from Lan Su's arms. However, before he could do so, Zhouyiran hugged Lan Su tightly and glared fiercely at Adam, refusing to let him carry him. "You're being fierce with me? Be fierce again, and I'll throw you into space." Zhouyiran pouted and glared fiercely at him, his little hand clutching Lan Su's clothes tightly. That little hand faintly touched Lan Su's chest. Adam's jealousy surged, and he roared at Zhouyiran, the little fellow. "Sob, sob, 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 Mama, Papa is bullying me." With that, Zhouyiran was even more unwilling to leave his mother's arms. "Why are you so fierce to the child? Go away." What made Adam even angrier was that Lan Su helped the child slap his hand away and walked away angrily. Adam tilted his head and could clearly see Zhouyiran hugging his mother, Lan Su, and making faces at him. "You little bastard, how dare you? How dare you snatch my woman?" Adam chased after him angrily. It was a noisy family of three, but they were also enjoying themselves. After Leng Mei left Yunjian and Ci's house, she walked carefully on the streets. Leader's stamina was too damn good. She was having fun day and night, and her stamina couldn't take it anymore. If this continued, the one who would have a kidney deficiency wouldn't be the leader, but her. "Leng Mei, where are you going?" Leng Mei was about to leave carefully when Ruo Yin's voice came from behind. Ruo Yin was the spear god who was known as the sharpshooter in the Blood Doll organization. At the same time, Ruo Yin and Leng Mei, who was known as the #1 expert under the Blood Doll leader, were competing for the top spot. Ugh. Leng Mei saw that Ruo Yin had discovered her escape. She looked left and right, then rushed towards Ruoyin and covered her mouth. Shhhh. Don't talk. I'm telling you, I'm running away. I'll come back later. Therefore, the position of Blood Doll's #1 expert is temporarily given to you. Take it if you want. Lung Mei's words stunned Ruoyin. You want to escape again? Where are you going? Ruoyin blinked and asked. Even if I have to go to the ends of the earth, I will go wherever there is no leader. If she didn't escape now, her old waist would break. Lung Mei said solemnly. With that, Lung Mei released her hand that was covering Ruoyin's mouth. She waved at Ruoyin and was about to walk forward, leaving behind a cool sentence. Then bye-bye. I'm leaving. Don't miss me. I'm just a legend. As soon as she said the word legend, a steady male voice sounded behind Lung Mei. Leaving? Where are you going? After hearing the steady male voice, Lung Mei was so scared that she trembled. She turned around slowly and stiffly. She forced a bitter smile. Hey, what a coincidence. Leader, why are you here too? Not far away, there was a man dressed in black from head to toe and wearing a black hoodie. Under the hoodie was a very young but frighteningly pale handsome face. It was late at night. Di Lin suddenly stood behind Lung Mei, giving off the feeling that he was a messenger of the night. What a coincidence. Di Lin's handsome face, which was almost pale, moved slightly. Unknowingly, Di Lin had already grabbed Lung Mei's hand. Ruoyin gave Lung Mei a take-care expression and slipped away. Hey, Ruoyin. Lung Mei saw this and was about to scold Ruoyin for being unkind. But Di Lin had already grabbed her hand and was walking towards the hotel. As your punishment for running away, you are not allowed to get out of bed for the next month. Chapter 21-22. Lung Mei rolled her eyes when she heard what Di Lin said. She had a feeling that her waist would be so sore that she could not feel anything for the next month because of her escape. God, she did not want that. The next morning, Yin Jian woke up sprawled on Siyi's chest. She was not in a hurry to put on her clothes when she woke up but automatically wrapped her arms around his chest with her eyes closed. Siyi had actually woken up a long time ago. When he felt his Yin Jian sleeping so soundly with her arms wrapped around his chest, he did not move, afraid that he would disturb her sleep. They slept until 8 in the morning and Yin Jian did not even go for her morning run. When they woke up, it was just in time for breakfast. Yin Jian stayed at home for the next 2 days with Siyi. Occasionally, Xiao Yunju would bring Duan Li and Duanya over to play with Yin Jian and Siyi. However, Xiao Yunju, Duan Li, and Duanya had made a group of friends recently, so they would go out when it was time for them to play. Children were innocent and naive, but also very cute. Yin Jian treated Siyi as her man now, the kind where they did not hide anything from each other. Therefore, Yin Jian told Siyi about the discovery of her body in her past life. Siyi frowned when he heard that. After all, it was Yin Jian's body in her past life. They had not started researching it yet. It would be inappropriate if the researchers were to study her body, who would want their body to be touched here and there. It was fortunate that they had not started researching it yet. It was Xiao Jian's original body after all. I'll send someone to get her back, Siyi said. No, I'll do it myself. I won't publicize it if I can, Yin Jian said. Siyi would never reject Yin Jian's decision. After staying at home with Siyi for 2 days, Siyi returned to an Hun organization while Yin Jian returned to the University of Rivertown. On the long-distance bus back to Jiang City, Liang Xiaomin, who was traveling with Yin Jian, had a bitter expression on her face. She looked as if she had a lot on her mind. Halfway through the car ride, Liang Xiaomin asked Yin Jian, Yin Jian, tell me, if a guy says he likes you, but plays around with other guys and girls every day, what do you think? Not only do you have to give him money, but you also have to treat his friends to meals and bars every day. If this kind of guy asked you to give yourself to him, would you agree? The boy Liang Xiaomin was talking about was undoubtedly her boyfriend, Jinyu. Yin Jian could tell that Liang Xiaomin's boyfriend, Jinyu, was most likely asking to sleep with Liang Xiaomin. I won't. Yin Jian rejected decisively. Why? Liang Xiaomin asked, puzzled. Protect yourself. Otherwise you'll regret it. Yin Jian didn't give a reason. She only said this to Liang Xiaomin. Liang Xiaomin fell silent after hearing this. At that time, Liang Xiaomin had never thought that her life would change because of Yun Jian's words. After Yun Jian returned to school, she went back to her normal life. In the past few days, the most sensational news was that the most handsome guy in Dongfang University, who had displayed 99 roses in a heart to Yun Jian, had his legs crippled by an unknown person. He even had difficulty walking in the future. Needless to say, this was definitely done by CE. However, this wasn't within the scope of Yun Jian's consideration. At this moment, Yun Jian was planning to apply for leave to go to Marilena's tomb in Country M in a few days' time. However, plans could never keep up with changes. On this day, Yun Jian and Zhu Huili arrived at the classroom very early and saw that their classmates were already there. A few of them were holding a newspaper and making a big fuss. Seeing that Yun Jian had arrived, the classmates were still talking among themselves. One of the students was holding a newspaper at this moment and cried out in surprise, "Mr. Zhang! Oh my God! Shocking! Shocking! I heard that something big happened internationally. The top secret agent on the international secret agent ranking, the infamous slaying god, is dead. Her body is in Marilena's tomb in Country M. I heard that she's been dead for a long time, but her body hasn't decomposed yet." Now that countless international bosses have heard the news, they've formed teams to snatch her away. Chapter 21-23. I heard that the news was leaked by someone. I wonder if it's true. Shocking. It's too shocking. According to the newspaper, after hearing the news, all the top people in the world rushed to Marilena's grave before they even had the time to think about the authenticity of the news. Slaying God, the #1 international secret agent ranking, is just too awesome. It's just a rumor, but it's not confirmed that it's slaying God. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. Chapter 21-24. The male student's words successfully attracted Yun Jian's attention. Yun Jian stopped in her tracks. "Hee, I knew you'd be interested in this. Seeing how you usually don't care about ordinary things, I knew you'd be especially interested in some strange things." The male student walked towards Yun Jian. As he walked, he even snapped his fingers and pretended to be quite handsome. "You're from the Archaeological Society?" This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. Chapter 21-25. This female member was also a student of the School of Archaeology of Rivertown and a member of the Archaeology Society. Most of the students in the School of Archaeology of Rivertown were from the archaeology faculty. Very few students from other faculties were studying in the School of Archaeology of Rivertown. Hence, the Archaeology Society wasn't like other societies where you could join as long as you were interested. If a student of the School of Archaeology of Rivertown wanted to join the Archaeology Society, they had to be outstanding. Outstanding here meant that they were outstanding enough to be one of the best in the School of Archaeology of Rivertown. Only then would they be qualified to join the Archaeology Society. Besides Yun Jian, Ma Zhixiang and the other 4 were all members of the Archaeology Society. In other words, the 5 of them were the best in the School of Archaeology of Rivertown. The female member who spoke was called Lu Yuyan. Lu Yuyan had the best overall ability among the 5 members of the Archaeology Society who were participating in the tomb adventure. She said that because the few of them had already explored a place like the tomb before. In the end, they had brought a person with no common sense there, and had almost triggered the trap in the tomb, causing all of them to lose their lives on the spot. In the end, Lu Yuyan had resolved the crisis and saved everyone. Lu Yuyan's words weren't directed at Yun Jian. After Lu Yuyan said that, Ma Zhixiang scratched his head. His face that wasn't handsome but wasn't ugly either immediately revealed an awkward expression. "Have you learned self-defense before?" Ma Zhixiang turned to ask Yun Jian. The tomb adventure wasn't like the usual. Previously, The person who didn't know anything had almost wiped out all the members of the Archaeology Society who had gone to the tomb. As the president, Ma Zhixiang naturally had to take this matter seriously. This wasn't a joke. However, Ma Zhixiang wasn't a straightforward person when it came to rejecting people. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken the risk to bring a person who didn't know anything to the tomb. Oh yes, Zhixiang. She's the one I told you about previously. She's the new president of the Martial Arts Society at the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. Oh, she's amazing. Even the president of our Martial Arts Society, Mo Buffon, wasn't her match. So you don't have to worry about whether she'll drag you down. Tong Zhengjin patted his chest and spoke to Ma Zhixiang in a reassuring tone. Lu Yuyan let out a sigh of relief. Then she turned to Yun Jian and said, "That's good. We've confirmed that there will be 6 of us. We'll set off at 2 o'clock sharp. If you have anything to do, you should take advantage of this time to do it." Compared to the initial questioning, Lu Yuyan's tone was much more easygoing. Lu Yuyan had the demeanor of an elder sister. She was tall, about 1.7 meters tall, with a pair of slender legs. She wore a pair of black flat-bottomed boots, a clean black button-down shirt, and a pair of black shorts. Paired with nude-colored stockings, she didn't feel cold even though it was getting closer to winter. Lu Yuyan's appearance was not bad. Her facial features were exquisite. It was just that when she spoke, she had a straight face, which gave people the illusion that she was scolding someone. Actually, it wasn't a bad thing. Yun Jian didn't say much but responded. Yun Jian went back to the martial arts club near the school and instructed the members to practice well. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, she met up with Ma Zhixiang, Lu Yuyan, and the other 4. The group boarded the bus to the airport. After taking the plane to Country M, they transferred to a small village in Country M. The small village in Country M wasn't poor. Country M wasn't as big as Country Z, and its population was far less than Country Z. In addition, Country M's economy was developing faster. Therefore, the village here had been developing very well since 2002. Ma Zhixiang rented a taxi, which took them to the small village. "Shall we find a place to rest today?" Ma Zhixiang said. They still needed to find out where Marilena's tomb was. It was everyone's first time coming to this small village in Country M, so they naturally didn't know the way. Yun Jian and the others nodded in agreement. By the way, if any of you have good English and can communicate normally with the people in Country M, go and ask the passers-by where Marilena's tomb is. We'll find a place to rest nearby. In the group, a fat and short boy spoke up. Yuyan's English is good. Let her go. Yuyan was the one who translated the taxi just now. A girl with 2 ponytails said. I learned it from the English school. I really don't know how to ask for directions. Lu Yuyan wasn't proud and said bluntly. Then what should we do? The girl with 2 ponytails shook her head and frowned. Just when everyone didn't know what to do, a beautiful voice sounded. I'll go. Hey. Chapter 21-26. The one who spoke was none other than Yun Jian. Yun Jian pursed her lips and replied, Is your English good? The lowly-looking girl with 2 ponytails turned to look at Yun Jian and asked. Although the lowly-looking girl with 2 ponytails was already in university, her appearance and dressing made her look like a junior high school student. Her name was Night Spirit. Night Spirit. Just from her name, one could tell that she was a mischievous girl. Night Spirit was actually 19 years old, but judging from her appearance, people would believe that she was only 14 or 15 years old. I can communicate normally with Americans, Yun Jian explained. That's amazing. The fat boy next to her was called Guodongyang. He gave Yun Jian a thumbs up. As for the 5 people other than Yun Jian, the boy who had never spoken was nearly 1.9 meters tall. His body was quite strong, and his strong muscles could be seen from his clothes. This boy's name was Ling Feng. He did not like to talk much and looked rather mature. He was only in his early 20s, but he looked like a mature man in his 30s. Ma Zhixiang and the other 4 did not doubt Yun Jian's words at all, since they had agreed to let Yun Jian come with them. Then in their hearts, they had already treated Yun Jian as one of their own. Soon, with Yun Jian asking for directions, The 6 of them found a hotel closest to Marilena's tomb. Marilena's tomb was nearby, but it was still a 2-hour journey on the mountain road from the village. The mountain path was rugged, so it was usually done in groups of several people. There were no exceptions. This was because if you did not go in groups, the villagers would not allow foreigners to go to Marilena's tomb. After resting for a day, Yunjian and the others went to Marilena's tomb with teams from various countries early the next morning. Other than Yunjian's team, the other teams were basically made up of foreigners. However, what was rather surprising was that one of the teams was also from country Z. Looking at the age of the members of that team, they were also in their 20s. Like Ma Jixiang and the others, they were probably from an archaeology school. However, those people looked quite cold. When they were walking on the mountain road, Ma Jixiang kindly handed the oranges he brought to them, and asked if they wanted to eat them. In the end, that person directly slapped the oranges Ma Jixiang gave him to the ground. Ma Jixiang looked embarrassed, and then the 2 parties ignored each other. Yunjian did not pay attention to these things. The group continued forward. The mountain road was rugged and even steep in some places. When they reached a fork in the road, they were about to go to the other road. The owner of the inn gave him a map. This fork in the road was the closest route to Marilena's tomb. Just as the group was about to walk in that direction, a few foreigners who were sitting on a few large rocks at the intersection of the road jumped down from the rocks and blocked the way. "We're taking this road. All of you, scram to the other road," the leader of these people said in a ruffian voice. He spoke in English. This road belongs to everyone. Who do you think you are to take it just because you say so?" In another team from Country Z, like Yunjian's team, a girl with loose hair and Western-style clothes replied to the leader in fluent English. This Western-style girl was called Lu Mingyu. That was what her companions called her. Everyone present could speak English. It was just a matter of whether they were proficient or not. As for Ma Jixiang, Night Spirit, and the others, they were all university students who got into regular universities. They could generally understand the general meaning of English. It was just that they did not know how to speak it. After the Western-style Lu Mingyu finished speaking, the ruffian foreigners walked to the side. Seeing this, Lu Mingyu turned around and smiled smugly at her companions. At the same time, she glanced at Yunjian and the others from the corner of her eyes. She was full of arrogance and superiority. However, these ruffian foreigners walked to the side and soon surrounded them again. What was different from before was that these ruffian foreigners all had rifles in their hands. The leader of the ruffian foreigners laughed and said, "This road belongs to us. Whoever dares to take it will die." Seeing the foreigners who suddenly carried weapons, Lu Mingyu realized that these foreigners were not ordinary people. She was so frightened that she sat on the ground and crawled back a few steps. Seeing this, the ruffian foreigners nodded and smiled contemptuously. However, just as everyone was disheartened and planned to take a longer route, and the ruffian foreigners looked at the people in front of them with contempt, a beautiful female voice rang out. It was a voice that made the depths of one's soul tremble violently. It spread throughout the place. "I'm so sorry. I never knew that my corpse was so charming that it even attracted your Gale mercenaries to come and join in the fun today. It's my honor." Chapter 21-27. My Corpse? Hurricane Mercenaries. Everyone there was stunned for a second when they heard what Yunjian said. What did Yunjian mean? What did she mean by my corpse? Could it be that the corpse in Marilena's tomb was hers? Was she slaying God, the #1 secret agent in the world? Of course no one thought so. To hell with it. Yunjian. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green at the moment. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. Chapter 21-28. She had her eyes on the corpse, so it was hers. Yunjian's words made the people who were shocked by Yunjian's words of my corpse feel that it was an illusion. In spite of it, what Yunjian did just now was too shocking. Not only was she unfazed when she was faced with the leading foreigner's rifle, She had seized the opportunity when she was answering the foreigner's question to pounce over and snatch the foreigner's gun in just 3 seconds. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. Chapter 21-29. Ma Zhixiang and the others followed Yun Jian for a long distance before they recovered from their shock. Oh no, my God. Yun Jian, how did you do that just now? Do you know that your pose was so cool? From now on, Guodongyang, a member of the Archaeology School's society, will be your underling. Guodongyang grinned at Yun Jian with his fair lips and teeth as his huge and plump body shook up and down. Guodongyang was a true fatty. Although he looked fat, he was actually even fatter. The lumps of fat on his body clung tightly to his body. However, Guodongyang was an extremely adorable fatty. Not only did the fat on his body not make one feel disgusted, it even made him look adorable. Fatty you? Underling? Come on. Yun Jian doesn't want to take you in. Night Spirit swung her 2 ponytails and made a funny face at Guodongyang with a grin. What's wrong? So what if I'm fat? Being fat means that I can eat. My body is great and I can eat well. Give me a fulcrum, and I can eat your family to the point of poverty. Guodongyang walked with a proud expression as he shook his body twice with his tummy. That action made Night Spirit burst into laughter. She laughed so hard that she almost choked on her own saliva. Fatty, why are you so funny? Are you trying to make me laugh to death? Night Spirit laughed and laughed until she could not hold it in anymore. She hugged her tummy and laughed as she walked forward, unable to stop. How annoying! You guys are so nosy. Seeing Night Spirit and Guodongyang laughing along the way, Lu Mingyu, who was very concerned about her image, brushed her long hair that was scattered over her shoulders and pouted. Hey, we're talking about ourselves. It's not a problem for you, right? We're not walking on your path, nor are we snatching your place. Furthermore, if it's someone from our team, you guys can only take the long route obediently. If you're unhappy, you can take the long route yourself. Do you really King think we have to bring you along? Night Spirit was not someone to be trifled with either. When she heard Lu Mingyu's words, she immediately retorted without giving her any face. Night Spirit was direct, but as long as one was alive, one should be like Night Spirit. If someone scolded them, they should bombard them with words until they surrendered. Don't say that you're embarrassed to fight back. Think about it from another perspective. If the other party had the nerve to bully you, why would you be embarrassed to fight back? So what if they had shed all pretense of cordiality? If the other party dared to bully you, it meant that she had shed all pretense of cordiality first. Why should you show her any mercy? Night Spirit, well said. I support you. When Guodongyang heard Night Spirit's words, he stood out and said loudly. At the same time, he glanced at Lu Mingyu from the corner of his eye. This stare infuriated Lu Mingyu. Aren't you guys just borrowing that woman's glory? What's so great about that? Did he think that he was very powerful? I think that woman is just SOSO. Didn't he just say a few random words? Did he really think he was a god? Huh. Lu Mingyu was not someone who would swallow her anger. She kept saying that woman and quarreled with Night Spirit and Guodongyang. From time to time, she would glare at Yun Jian as if Yun Jian had done something to her. Just as Lu Mingyu was clicking her tongue nonstop, Yun Jian, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, "Shut up, there's gunfire." Where did the gunfire come from? The gunfire was so loud, why didn't we hear it? You're trying to prove that you're very powerful just now, right? Lu Mingyu even glanced at Yun Jian from the corner of her eye. However, just as he finished speaking, a series of terrifying gunshots came from the back of the mountain in front of them. Bang, 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 a. Chapter 21-30. Gunshots rang out one after another. They were quite a distance away from where the gunshots were coming from. If someone were to walk there, they would probably hear deafening gunshots. What's going on? What's going on? The moment she heard the gunshots, Lu Mingyu, who was so arrogant earlier, immediately grabbed the sleeve of a boy who came with her. She was so scared that she could not stop trembling. Although Ma Jixiang, Night Spirit, Guodongyang Lu Yuyan, and Ling Feng were also afraid of the sudden gunshots, their reactions were many times better than Lu Mingyu's. Why does everyone here have guns? Lu Mingyu was so scared that she grabbed the sleeve of a boy who came with her tightly. She was so scared that she was almost scared to death. There's a gunfight up ahead. Yun Jian ignored Lu Mingyu and said calmly. After Yun Jian finished speaking, everyone present was slightly stunned. Gunfight? Why would there be a gunfight? Didn't everyone come here to see the female corpse that won't rot? I only heard that some people wanted to snatch the female corpse. But if that's the case, everyone should compete fairly. Why would they shoot? Lu Mingyu was already trembling in fear. At this time, a girl who was in the same team as Lu Mingyu was less than 1.5 meters tall, and was about the height of a child. According to the golden ratio, her figure was just right. She was also a little scared as she spoke softly. However, just as the girl finished speaking, she was interrupted by Yun Jian. Compete fairly? These words only belong to a society ruled by law. I'm sorry to tell you that this is not a place you're familiar with. You still want to compete fairly after entering this place? Are you dreaming? It was not hard to tell that neither Ma Jixiang's team nor Lu Mingyu's team knew what kind of place they were in. Perhaps they were still heading towards an ordinary tomb, with the idea that the treasure would belong to whoever found it first based on their own abilities. However, they did not know that the people who came to Marilena's tomb to fight for the corpse were all international wanted criminals, international business tycoons, underground gangs, assassin organizations, and mercenary groups. These people treated human lives like grass. Could it be that everyone else is here for the female corpse? It was rumored that the female corpse was slaying God, the #1 secret agent on the international secret agent ranking. Was slaying God's influence so great in this world? It's just a news report saying that the female corpse is suspected to be slaying God, the #1 international secret agent, and all those people are rushing over to check it out. They haven't even entered the tomb yet, and they're already using their guns and starting a massacre just to snatch first place? Do you still regard human lives as worthless? Ma Jixiang was indeed worthy of being the president of the Archaeology Society. He possessed an intelligent brain, and immediately asked this question in shock. It was only suspected to be the corpse of slaying God, the top international secret agent. They did not even know if the news was real or fake. Yet all the top international figures were rushing over to check it out? What kind of existence was slaying God? Although Ma Jixiang, Lu Mingyu, and the rest were students, they shuddered when they heard about slaying God, the top secret agent on the international secret agent ranking. However, they were university students after all. They would not know what slaying God's international status was. What they said above was spoken in Chinese. The foreigners in the team standing at the side probably did not understand Mandarin. However, a foreigner with a beard that covered half his face could not help but speak in Mandarin when he heard Ma Jixiang. The moment he mentioned slaying God, the foreigner was so serious that he was filled with respect. Every word that came out of the foreigner's mouth shocked and resonated with everyone present. Slaying God, the #1 international secret agent ranking. She's an existence that makes the world tremble. Slaying God is the person who shocked the world during the Bloody Night incident a few years ago. Those who are targeted by slaying God will definitely die. If we were to talk about slaying God's most famous incident, it would be the Bloody Night incident a few years ago. When slaying God wasn't #1 on the international secret agent ranking, she was one of the top 10 secret agents on the international secret agent ranking, and top 10 assassins on the international assassin ranking due to her extraordinary ability. A total of 20 top international assassins went up against slaying God alone. Do you know how it ended in the end? Slaying God single-handedly wiped out the international secret agent assassin ranking, and killed all 20 top assassins on the spot. That's the infamous Bloody Night incident. Tell me, how can the death of such a terrifying person not cause a stir? Chapter 2131. A. Chapter 2132. A. Chapter 2133. Yun Jian followed Ma Zhixiang and the others to the hillside first. Lu Mingyu and the others followed closely behind. Later, the other teams of foreigners also followed Yun Jian and the others to the hillside. The hillside was not high. Yun Jian and the others walked for about 10 minutes to reach the top of the hill. At the top of the hill, they could see the scene of the terrifying gunfight about a few hundred meters away. From the top of the hill, one could see the entire scene of the gunfight, as well as the entrance to the tomb at the side of the hill where the gunfight was in full swing. Marilena's tomb was different from other tombs buried underground. It was on flat ground. Of course, Marilena's tomb was located in the middle of a mountain. Entering from the entrance of the tomb was equivalent to walking in a man-made cave. But unlike a cave, it was a tomb. After Lu Mingyu followed the group to the top of the hill, she was no longer afraid when she saw that she was safe. Her cowardice disappeared in an instant. She even saw Yun Jian, who had just shown her talent, follow them to the top of the hill. Lu Mingyu was unhappy. She pointed at the scene of the gunfight in the distance and said loudly to Yun Jian, "Aren't you very good? What's wrong? Are you scared now? Why did you come to the top of the hill with us to take refuge? Go down if you have the guts." Who asked her to show off in front of everyone just now? As soon as Lu Mingyu finished speaking, the girl who was less than 1.5 meters tall and about the same height as a child also helped Lu Mingyu to point out Yun Jian's faults. "The gunfight over there is so scary. But didn't you say that there is no fair competition here? Since you said that, it means that you are very familiar with the scene of such a gunfight, right? Then why did you come to the top of the hill like us to take refuge?" It was normal for young girls to pay attention to their image. But Yun Jian had just refuted the words of the girl who was less than 1.5 meters tall in front of everyone. It was reasonable that the girl was unhappy. Now that they were safe, the girls helped Lu Mingyu to fight back against Yun Jian. "Alright Lu Mingyu, Dan Kaiyue, stop talking. It was this girl who helped us just now, so we didn't have to take a detour. It's really too much for the two of you to continue talking." At this moment, a boy in Lu Mingyu's team finally stood up and said something fair. The girl, who was less than 1.5 meters tall, was short but not heavy. She was thin and petite, and helped Lu Mingyu to say that Yun Jian was not her. Her name was Dan Kaiyue. As soon as the boy finished speaking, Dan Kaiyue and Lu Mingyu shut their mouths obediently. Then the boy turned to look at Yun Jian, and smiled apologetically. Then he turned to Ma Zhixiang and said, "Well, I'm sorry about earlier. You were kind enough to give me an orange to eat, and I even swatted it away. I heard from you guys on the way that you guys are university students from the School of Archaeology. Then we should be similar. We are also students of the School of Archaeology. My father is a professor and an archaeologist in our school. This time, I was the one who led the team. Before we came out, my father told me not to care about others. People outside are sinister, so when you gave me an orange just now, I didn't give you a good look. Now I apologize to you. I hope you can forgive me." As the boy spoke, he reached out his hand to Ma Zhixiang and introduced himself very seriously. "Let's get to know each other. My name is David. Chapter 2134. David was not pretending to be aloof, which was why he had swatted away Ma Zhixiang's orange. Now that the misunderstanding had been resolved, Ma Zhixiang extended his hand in a friendly manner and shook David's hand. "Your father was right. When you're outside, you have to be vigilant. It's not your fault. Haha." After a while, Ma Zhixiang and David became good friends. The main reason was that Ma Zhixiang had let bygones be bygones. Lu Mingyu and Dan Kaiyue saw that Ma Zhixiang and David had become good friends. Dan Kaiyue did not say much while Lu Mingyu rolled her eyes. Look, over there." Just when the tension had eased, a foreigner suddenly pointed excitedly at the location of the gunfight in the distance and exclaimed. His exclamation attracted everyone's attention. In the distance, a small team of 8 people suddenly appeared in the middle of the gunfight between the two sides. These 8 people were undoubtedly Blackett and his men. When Blackhead and his men joined the gunfight, it became a three-way gunfight. The three groups of people who came from different regions and had different goals started fighting each other with their spears. For a moment, gunshots rang through the air. Kill! Kill! We swear to protect our benefactor, slaying God's body. We'd rather die today than take back our benefactor, slaying God's body. 100 meters away, at the scene of the gunfight, Blackhead, who was shot in the arm, roared. Ignoring the throbbing pain, he reloaded the spent bullets into the magazine and attacked again. The two underworld forces that Blackhead was fighting in the distance had many people. The two underworld forces that were still in the gunfight suddenly came to a consensus and charged toward Blackhead and his men. Oh no! They've stopped attacking each other and are planning to kill us first. One of Blackhead's men frowned and said. Blackhead clenched his fist. Suddenly, in front of Ma Zhixiang and the others who were 100 meters away, he poked his head out, held his pistol and shot dead the enemy's men. He shouted, he yelled. Don't retreat. Don't forget, we'd be dead if it weren't for slaying God. Now that slaying God is in trouble, how can we surrender? Kill them. Kill them. Kill. Blackhead's brothers stood up, exposed themselves in front of the enemy, and charged forward, screaming and yelling. 100 meters away, Ma Zhixiang and the others were stunned by the fighting spirit of Blackhead's group. Oh my God, they'll die if they do this. Night Spirit's eyes widened in shock. Die. It was no longer important to Blackhead and the others. Slaying God was the one who gave them a second chance at life. Now that the underground forces wanted to take slaying God's body away, they must not let them succeed. Gunshots rang out incessantly. The two opposing dark forces now aimed their guns at Blackhead's group of 8. As Ma Zhixiang and the others exclaimed in shock, Blackhead's group of 8 fell to the ground one after another. Blackhead and the others had covered themselves very well. They were wearing bulletproof vests, so they weren't hit in the vitals. However, they were still missing 1 or 2 shots. One of the bosses of the underworld forces suddenly stood out and shouted, "You're too weak. Kill. Kill. Kill them all. Damn it. How dare you sneak attack my men? Kill them all. Give them the final blow." After that, 8 of his men with rifles pointed their guns at Blackhead's group. Seeing this, pain and despair flashed through Blackhead's group of 8. They were still too weak. They thought they could do something for slaying God. But now, they couldn't do it anymore. "I'm sorry, we're just a bunch of trash. But we've done our best." Blackhead closed his eyes slowly. Just when he and Ma Zhixiang and the others who were watching from 100 meters away thought that Blackhead's group of 8 were done for. Tut 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 tut. 8 consecutive machine gun shots were heard. The 8 men who had pointed their guns at Blackhead's group were killed instantly. Ma Zhixiang and the others widened their eyes from afar. The girl who was supposed to be standing next to them had somehow gone down the hill and was now standing in the center of the battle between the two dark forces. It was the most eye-catching spot. The girl was holding a machine gun that she had gotten from somewhere. After shooting at the 8 people, Blackhead and the others reacted and looked at her with shocked and terrified eyes. The girl's lips curled into a smile in front of the two dark forces, Blackhead's group, and Ma Zhixiang and the others who were watching from afar. She lowered her head slightly and revealed a creepy smirk. She said something that made everyone's faces turn pale. "Even if they're trash or dogs, the people I've protected aren't people you can kill just because you want to." A. Chapter 2135. The people I've protected, even if they're trash, even if they're dogs, are not people you can kill just because you want to. Yin Jian's words weighed down on everyone's hearts like a 1,000-pound boulder. No one was able to react to the sudden turn of events. By the time they realized what was going on, Yin Jian had already fired her machine gun at the 8 men who were trying to kill Blackhead. She had. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you want to support the author, please go to the official website to read. A. Chapter 2136. Ma Zhixiang was indeed the president of the Archaeology Society. He had great foresight and his analysis was very reasonable. This Yin Jian was not simple, so they should not drag her down. Ma Zhixiang's words made Lu Yuyan stop what she was doing. She really did not insist on going down the mountain to bring Yin Jian back. Ma Zhixiang's team of archaeology society members were not simple. Otherwise, why would the school be willing to let them explore the tomb? This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. To support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2137. Brother Milo, what are you doing? Xianyu asked as he scanned the surroundings after giving Milo a big hug. There's a group of overconfident forces and a few ants who barged into my territory trying to snatch the entrance to Marilena's tomb from me. I'm getting rid of evil for the people. After Milo heard Xianyu's words, he glared fiercely at the underground forces who were in a gunfight with him, Blackett and his men who joined the fight later, and Yin Jian who appeared last. Oh, what kind of ants dare to be so presumptuous in front of Brother Milo? After Xianyu heard Milo's words, he looked around with a slightly scrutinizing gaze. Envious Yu's words clearly eased Milo's anger from before. They're just a few clowns. Milo replied, Xianyu. Since they're just clowns, why should we care about their lives? Brother Milo, I've heard that Marilena's tomb is like a huge maze. The female corpse suspected to be slaying God was hidden in it by a few researchers. Until now, those who entered the tomb have yet to find the female corpse. I heard that someone searched Marilena's tomb for 3 days and 3 nights, but still couldn't find the female corpse's hiding place. Instead, they returned to the entrance of the tomb. It turns out that they've been walking in circles. Brother Milo, I'm telling you the truth. I'm only telling you this because of our close relationship. It's more important for us to enter the tomb and find the female corpse. If we're late, it'll be snatched away by those who have already entered the tomb. As for this group of clowns, let them continue to dance. The most important thing now is to enter the tomb as soon as possible. With Brother Milo's status, how can you limit your goal to this? Xianyu was already standing in front of Milo when he spoke to him sternly. That's right. Ha ha ha. Brother Xian, you're really far-sighted. Let's go. We'll enter the tomb now. After Milo heard Xianyu's words, he laughed and didn't argue with Yin Jian anymore. He led his men and quickly walked toward the tomb. The other group of underground forces did not stop them. After a gunfight, Milo clearly had the upper hand. It was great that Milo no longer cared. Yin Jian did not continue to attack Milo. This Milo was just a small character and was not worth her energy. After Milo walked into Marilena's tomb with a group of people laughing, another group of dark forces also followed into the tomb. With a light leap, Yin Jian hopped down from the rock and made her way to where Blackett and the others had fallen. Can you still get up? Yin Jian stood in front of Blackett and asked. Yes. Blackett looked at Yin Jian as if she was his idol. His voice was so loud that it almost reached the tip of his heart. She is. Blackett struggled for a while before he finally managed to stand up. He covered the gunshot wounds on his body, but blood was still dripping from his wounds. Blackett already realized that she, Yin Jian, was, however, Blackett didn't say the shocking news he had just realized. How is it? Are you guys okay? At this moment, Ma Zhixiang and the others, who were originally standing on the hillside in the distance, ran over. At this time Ma Zhixiang asked. Ma Zhixiang, who was on the hill, saw the group of people enter Marilena's tomb. So he came down the hill and rushed over. Tisich, aren't we fine? Nothing happened. Lu Mingyu muttered. Leave all the weapons on you. Go clean your wounds and leave. Just then, Yin Jian looked at Blackett and said to Blackett and the others in an irrefutable tone. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version website, A. Chapter 2138. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. But we haven't gotten our savior's body back. One of the men in Blackett's group said. Blackett and his men were injured, both severely and lightly. The man who spoke was so injured that he could barely stand up. However, he was determined to stand up and continue his journey to Marilena's tomb. They had sworn that their second life was given to them by slaying God. If they could die for slaying God one day, they would have no regrets. Leave it to me. I won't let her body fall into anyone's hands. Yin Jian did not wait for the severely injured man to speak. Her voice boomed with a powerful aura. Everyone was stunned when she finished speaking. Yin Jian did not sound like she was joking. Brothers, give her your weapons. Listen to her. Blackett covered his mouth and coughed a few times. After spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood, he wiped his mouth nonchalantly and spoke to his men. Clearly, other than Blackett, no one knew Yin Jian's identity. However, these men were absolutely loyal to Blackett. Hence, Blackett and his men threw all their weapons on the ground and listened to Yin Jian. They walked to the side and treated their wounds. After that, they supported each other and left the place. Blackett took one last long look at Yin Jian before turning to leave. It seemed like Blackett and his men had come with the determination to die. Not only were there a variety of pistols on the ground, but there were also grenades and other weapons that Ma Zhixiang and the rest had never seen before. Ma Zhixiang, David, and the rest were just university students after all. Although they had learned a lot and were more powerful than the average university student, they were still a group of ordinary people at the end of the day. Hence, they were stunned when they saw the variety of pistols and grenades on the ground. You've seen what happened just now. Those who enter the tomb will be in danger at any time. I can tell you very clearly that the people you'll meet in the tomb will only be scarier than those people just now. Whether it's in terms of international influence, strength, or status, those people just now can't compare to him. So, if you want to enter the tomb, pick up your own weapons and fight. Of course, you can also choose not to take your weapons or not enter the tomb, because once you enter the tomb, I won't care if you live or die. Do as you please. Yin Jian said to the crowd. At this point, she had already done all she could. What the hell? Do you think you're so powerful? You just know how to use weapons. I can do that too. Lu Mingyu glared at Yin Jian. She squatted down and picked a few weapons from the ground. But after holding them in her hands, Lu Mingyu realized that she didn't even know how to use them. Yin Jian ignored Lu Mingyu. At the same time, Ma Zhixiang and the other four had already chosen several weapons and carried them with them. Ma Zhixiang and the other four chose one weapon each. David, Lu Mingyu, Dan Kaiwe, and the others also chose one weapon each. Just as the group of people tried their best to hide their weapons on their bodies, but people could still see that they were carrying weapons with a glance, they glanced at Yin Jian from the corner of their eyes. Suddenly, they saw that Yin Jian was skillfully hiding 2 pistols on the left and right sides of her waist. Then she inserted 5 grenades into the bandage on her waist, in front of her stomach, and behind her back. Her loose clothes covered these 7 weapons. After that, Yin Jian picked up a few small knives and hid them in various parts of her body. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, Ma Zhixiang and the others wouldn't have believed that Yin Jian hid so many weapons on her body. After she lifted her clothes and rolled up her trousers, she hid all the weapons on her body. On the surface, it was as if she didn't have any weapons on her body. That appearance was like the preparation work of a female agent in a movie, before she took out hidden weapons from all over her body to kill someone. Ma Zhixiang and the others were stunned when they saw this. It was Ma Zhixiang who spoke. He opened his mouth wide in surprise and asked, Yin Jian, how did you hide so many weapons all over your body? Top reading website. M.A. Chapter 2139. Yin Jian was biting her butterfly knife. After everything was done, she held the butterfly knife in her mouth and twirled it twice in her hand. Finally, she hid it between her thighs and said bluntly, "That's how I did it." What's there to be proud of? Lu Mingyu glared at Yin Jian. She suddenly felt a wave of jealousy. Why did she seem to know everything? I can do it too, Lu Mingyu added. Then she read from. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2140. Lin Wei was already prepared for Yi Ling to ignore him. Lin Wei, one of the 4 leaders of the Hun organization who was not afraid of anything, was the strongest, and had never been afraid of anyone. However, because he was afraid that Yi Ling would ignore him, he delayed the agreed time by 2 days before coming to look for her. When he said those words that were so indifferent that anyone could hear the indifference in his voice, Lin Wei was afraid that Yi Ling would nod in agreement. However, he did not expect that she would actually. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. Chapter 2141. They had just entered the tomb and walked for 30 minutes, but they had only walked around the tomb once? What? It's so strange. We have been walking forward since we came in from the entrance of the tomb. We just turned at a few forks. How could we return to the same path? How is it possible to go around in circles? Hearing Yunjian's words, Lu Mingyu felt a chill down her spine. She was so scared that she shivered and stammered to defend herself. Compared to Lu Mingyu, who chose to deceive herself with words of disbelief, Lu Yuyan quickly took out a flashlight and shone it on the wall. Every 5 meters, a tick mark appeared in front of everyone's eyes. This mark was drawn by Lu Yuyan, who was walking at the back, with the red chalk. We really went back to the original path. Lu Yuyan frowned and immediately said, What should we do? We didn't see the entrance just now. Will we not be able to get out? What the hell is going on? Seeing this, Lu Mingyu was so scared that her face turned ashen. I want to get out of here. Dan Kaiwei immediately shivered in fear. Shut your mouths. Just as Lu Mingyu and Dan Kaiwei began to talk and tremble, Yun Jian suddenly shouted. Perhaps in this dark place where there was no light, Lu Mingyu and Dan Kaiwei were really scared by Yun Jian's shout and shut their mouths. At this time, everyone saw Yun Jian pressing her ear against the wall and listening quietly. In less than 2 seconds, Yun Jian raised her head and narrowed her eyes. There is someone on the other side of the wall. Don't scare us. I admit that I don't like you, but what kind of ability do you have to scare us like this? You. Lu Mingyu just said this. With a boom, the wall that Yun Jian had pressed her ear against just now seemed to have been triggered and suddenly opened. A handsome man in his early 30s appeared in front of everyone. He had a dignified appearance and was wearing a researcher's uniform. After the handsome man appeared, the moment he saw Yun Jian, he was slightly stunned. Then he said to Yun Jian in front of everyone, Aren't you my aunt's granddaughter? Wait, let me think, that little girl named Yun Jian? Why are you here? The handsome man who suddenly appeared in front of everyone was none other than Zhang Junyi, the distant relative who had taken out the photo of Yun Jian's corpse during Lu Lanhua's funeral. He was also the great scientist that their relatives talked about. Uncle, are you related to Yun Jian? Judging from your attire, you must be the researcher who studied the female corpse, right? Could you please take us to see the female corpse? We came all the way here just to take a look, and then we'll leave. Night Spirit thought for a moment and hurriedly spoke to Zhang Junyi. Zhang Junyi touched the bridge of his nose, thought for a while and nodded. Sure, we'll leave after we take a look, but don't tell anyone else where we hid the female corpse. You know that many people have entered the tomb to look for her recently. Zhang Junyi and this group of researchers had hidden the female corpse very well. Therefore, even if those international bigwigs entered Marilena's tomb, they could not find the female corpse's hiding place. However, just as Zhang Junyi finished speaking, Yun Jian and the others suddenly heard the anxious and terrified voices of other researchers coming from Zhang Junyi's earpiece. Oh no! Junyi, come back quickly. Those international bigwigs have found out where we hid the female corpse. As soon as he finished speaking, the communication was suddenly cut off. Hearing this, Ma Junyi's pupils constricted. In the next second, he did not have time to explain. He turned around and led Yun Jian and the others to the location where the female corpse was hidden. Chapter 2142. The international group of people had been searching Marilena's tomb for many days without finding any trace of the female corpse. However, the business tycoons from all over the world found the female corpse hidden by the researchers. This explosive news made Yun Jian's eyes narrow fiercely. When Ma Jixiang, Lu Yuyan Daiwei, and the others heard this, their eyes flickered. When they saw Zhang Junyi running back, they knew that Zhang Junyi must be running towards the female corpse. So, they chased after him with all their might. Following Zhang Junyi, they ran through countless tunnels and opened many mechanisms. Finally, they arrived at a place the size of a basketball court. This was a real tomb. 4 coffins were placed around the large and spacious area, and the 4 coffins were connected together to form a very neat square. When Yun Jian, Zhang Junyi, and the others arrived here, they saw a group of researchers dressed like Zhang Junyi standing not far away. And in the distance, there was a group of international bigwigs from all over the world. Among this group of international bigwigs, Milo's group and Xian Yu's group, who they met at the entrance of the tomb, were also present. At the same time, there were many unfamiliar faces. And among this group of international bigwigs, there was a burly middle-aged man who was strangling the neck of a man wearing a researcher's uniform. Obviously, this researcher was caught by this group of international bigwigs and finally forced to reveal the location of the female corpse. That's the coffin. The female corpse is hidden in that coffin. It has nothing to do with me. Now I have already said, as long as I help you find her, you will let me go. The researcher who was threatened, his legs trembled violently. He pointed at one of the 4 coffins and said to the middle-aged man who was strangling his neck, "Scram." The middle-aged man heard this and kicked the researcher away. Seeing this, the researcher ran towards Yun Jian and the others as fast as he could. Bang! However, before the researcher could take 10 steps, a bullet pierced through his head, killing him on the spot. The middle-aged man who grabbed the researcher's neck sneered and said coldly, "It's your honor to be killed by me. How can you run away?" After saying that, the middle-aged man twirled the gun that had just killed the researcher and put it back into his waist case. Look at the tattoo of a male tiger on that middle-aged man's left arm. There's a female tiger tattoo on his right arm. Judging from his disguise, he must be the number 2 assassin on the international assassin ranking, codenamed Tiger. While Ma Jixiang and the others were still unaware of the situation, their faces turned pale with fright. Standing next to Yun Jian was a group of people who had been following Yun Jian and the others since the small village. A foreigner pointed at the middle-aged man who had just killed the researcher and exclaimed loudly, "Ma Jixiang, Lu Yuyan Daiwei Lu Mingyu," and the others turned pale with fright. "Assassin? That's an assassin on the international ranking." Lu Mingyu's face turned green with fright. Although the others were silent, their expressions were not any better. It's not just him. The bald man standing next to Tiger is the international 3S wanted criminal, Mo Wu. Although Mo Wu is not on the international assassin ranking, he was once arrested and imprisoned in Interpol prison. In the end, he managed to escape and was given a kill order by the police. He survived even after being shot by a machine gun. In the end, he was not killed. His ability is comparable to the top 10 assassins on the international assassin ranking. And that woman in the Cheongsam, she must be the international gangster duo, the CEO of the multinational company, Double Knight Group. I heard that this Double Knight Group has secret connections with the biggest international arms smuggling tycoon. Her ability and influence is not something an ordinary person can fight against. This foreigner must have some understanding of these matters, so he was able to identify the group of people just by looking at their appearance. Hearing this, whether it was Ma Jixiang, Lu Mingyu, or the others, all turned pale with fright and trembled. The people they had never heard of in the world, the people who lived in the rainforest of gunfire, were all here, and each of their identities was more terrifying than the last. Ma Jixiang and the others were so scared that they did not even dare to breathe. At this moment, Tiger glanced at Yun Jian and the others. He did not take Yun Jian and the others seriously, and ordered his men to open the coffin. When the researchers in the distance saw this, they did not dare to stop them. The coffin containing the woman's corpse was opened in front of everyone. The female corpse in the coffin had delicate skin, rosy cheeks, and beautiful looks. With just one look, she gave off a kind of earth-shattering beauty that made people unable to take their eyes off her. She lay quietly in the coffin, wearing a leather jacket and pants that wrapped around her perfect figure. A silver pistol was tied to her thigh. She was so beautiful that it made people forget to breathe. The beauty of the girl in the coffin and Yunjian's beauty at this moment were somewhat similar. Both were so beautiful that people would never forget them. Ha ha ha. It's her. It's definitely her. There's no mistaking it. It's definitely slaying God herself. Although she's never shown her face, I've interacted with her so many times. There's no mistaking it. It's her. Tiger glared fiercely at the girl in the coffin and cackled savagely. In the next second, Tiger's smile faded and he said to his men, "This B***TCH has been rampant for so many years and she's finally dead. Ha ha. She wants to leave just like that? Dream on. Take off slaying God's clothes and cut her into 1,000 pieces. I want her to die without peace." Upon hearing the order, Tiger's men walked toward the female corpse in the coffin. Ma Zhixiang and the others shuddered. They did not expect Tiger to attack the deceased. However, just as Tiger's men were about to attack the female corpse in the coffin, a sharp female voice rang out. A cold female voice rang out in time. The female voice that suddenly rang out caught the attention of everyone present. When everyone turned to look, they saw Yunjian making her way to the coffin. She was already holding 2 butterfly knives that resembled those of slaying God, who used to dominate the world. When the international bosses saw Yunjian holding the butterfly knives, they shuddered. She looked exactly like the person in their memories. However, in the next second, Yunjian walked slowly. The words that came out of her mouth were so cold that everyone's eyes widened. "How dare you humiliate my corpse in front of me? Tiger, I haven't seen you for a few years and you've grown so bold that you can't even recognize me. Do you want to try dying again? Eh?" Chapter 2143. That familiar tone, those arrogant words as usual. Tiger's eyes widened as he stared at Yunjian. His expression changed. Slaying God had a grudge against Tiger. At least in Tiger's heart, slaying God was someone he hated to the bone with. This was because slaying God had sabotaged Tiger's missions more than once, causing him to fail his missions. This had happened many times in his career. This chapter is unauthorized and cannot be read in green at the moment. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. A. Chapter 2144. When Yunjian's words spread throughout the hall, everyone was shocked. However, Tiger's words dispelled their suspicions that Yunjian was slaying God. Slaying God's body was lying in the coffin, so how could she be this young girl who suddenly stood out? Didn't she see how that man killed her? He's not someone we can afford to offend. She's crazy. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green at the moment. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for it. A. Chapter 2145. The appearance of Bao Lei made Tiger, Double-Faced Lady, Mo Wu, Milo Xianyu, and the others squint their eyes. Bao Lei was the strongest of the 120 elites of the Storm Mercenary Group, the Berserk Group. Even though Bao Lei was blind in one eye, his strength would not be affected by this blindness. At this moment, Bao Lei was leading a group of people in front of Tiger and the others. Bao Lei. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. To support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. A. Chapter 2146. Yunjian was holding 2 pistols. Whether it was the action of loading the bullets into the magazine, or the action of focusing the muzzle to fire the bullets, it was amazing. Ma Zhixiang and the others were stunned again by Yunjian's consecutive actions. Her marksmanship is really accurate. Even though it was not the first time seeing Yunjian fire a gun, Lu Yuyan still exclaimed. Yunjian had just fired a series of shots. This chapter is not authorized and cannot be read in green for the time being. If you support the author, please go to the official website to pay for reading. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.